Hello there, wanderers of the night. Welcome back to Midnight Reddit Tales. We've gathered some of the deepest, most intriguing stories the internet has to hide after dark. If you enjoy these midnight dives, please leave a like, subscribe, and join our nocturnal community. Now let the shadows fall, and let's jump straight into the tales.
Story 1.
I remember the exact moment the floor fell out from under my life. It was a Tuesday. The coffee tasted like ash in my mouth. Chloe sat across from me at our small kitchen table sunlight, catching the gold flecks in her eyes. She wasn't crying. She wasn't wringing her hands. She was calm, like someone announcing a change in the weather. I slept with someone, she said. The spoon I was stirring my coffee with clattered against the ceramic mug. A sharp, ugly sound in the quiet morning. I waited for the rest. The apology. The gut-wrenching, tear-filled explanation. The mistake. It never came. His name is Julian, she continued, her voice even. It's been going on for a few months, and I don't want it to stop. I couldn't form words. My entire nervous system had just been unplugged. All I could manage was a weak, strangled what? I love you, Ethan. I do, she said, and the words felt like a slap. But you don't fulfill all of my needs. Julian does in other ways. And I think this is the evolution of our marriage. We should have an open relationship. An open relationship. She said it like she was suggesting we try a new restaurant. Like it was a reasonable, logical next step after 7 years of what I thought was a happy monogamous marriage. You cheated on me, I said, the words finally breaking free. You cheated and now you want my permission to keep doing it. It's not cheating if we both agree to the new terms, she said, a hint of impatience in her voice. This is about honesty. I'm being honest with you. The rage came, then hot and blinding. I stood up so fast my chair screeched back against the tile. Get out. Ethan, be reasonable. Get out. She left. And I was left standing in the ruins of my kitchen, my marriage, my entire world. My first call after I managed to stop shaking was to her parents, Carol and Richard. They'd always been more like friends to me. We golfed, we had barbecues. They were my family. I drove over there on autopilot, my mind a blank, static hum. I found them in their sunroom reading the paper like it was any other Tuesday. I spilled the whole story, the words tumbling out of me in a broken, desperate flood. I expected shock. I expected outrage on my behalf. I got pity. Carol put her teacup down with a delicate click. Oh, Ethan, she sighed. We were afraid of this. Afraid of what? Afraid your daughter would blow up our marriage. Richard folded his newspaper and set it aside. Afraid you wouldn't be able to handle it when she finally told you. I stared at him. Handle what? The affair. Her needs, Ethan, Carol said, her voice dripping with a kind of condescending sympathy I was starting to hate. Chloe is a passionate woman. She has a large capacity for love. It's not fair to expect one person to be everything. My brain felt like it was short-circuiting. What the hell are you talking about? She cheated on me. Richard leaned forward, lacing his fingers together. Son, words like cheating are so restrictive. Carol and I came to an understanding years ago. We have our own arrangements. It keeps things fresh. Honest. I felt the air leave my lungs. I was looking at two strangers. These people who I'd shared holidays with, who I'd called mom and dad, were telling me that infidelity was just a healthy hobby. So you're fine with this? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. You're on her side. There are no sides, Ethan, Carol said, her smile not reaching her eyes. There's just the path forward. Chloe is offering you a chance to evolve with her. To grow. Most men would be thrilled. She's not leaving you, she's just expanding her life together. I felt sick. I was being gaslit in surround sound. They were a team, a united front of warped logic and free love bullshit. They weren't my allies. They were her enablers. I can't do that, I stammered, shaking my head. A marriage is between two people. That's it. That's the deal. That's when Carol's expression hardened. The soft, pitying mask fell away, revealing something cold and sharp underneath. Then maybe the problem isn't the deal, she said, her voice low and cutting. Maybe the problem is that you're simply not enough for her. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? Did you ever stop to think why she might need to find fulfillment elsewhere? She pressed on her eyes like chips of ice. Did you ever think that maybe you are inadequate, that you can't give her what a woman like her truly needs, physically? Emotionally? You're asking her to starve just because you can only offer her breadcrumbs. Richard just sat there nodding slowly like his wife was delivering a profound, undeniable truth. This isn't about love, Ethan, she finished the final nail in my coffin. This is about your selfish pride. You'd rather see her unhappy and chained to your limitations than see her fulfilled. You're being selfish. And weak. I couldn't breathe. Inadequate. The word echoed in the sudden ringing silence of the room. It was a poison dart, and it had found its mark. I was being called a failure as a man by my wife's mother, and her father was co-signing it. I stood up, my legs trembling. There was nothing left to say. I didn't defend myself. I didn't scream. I just turned and walked out their judgment, following me like a shadow. I drove for an hour, maybe more. I don't know where I went. The streets blurred into a meaningless smear of light and color. I ended up parked in front of my own empty house. Chloe's car was gone. The silence inside was deafening. I was completely, utterly alone. My wife had betrayed me. Her parents had crucified me. The people who were supposed to be my support system had ganged up and torn me to shreds, leaving me with nothing but that one ugly word rattling around in my skull. Asterisk. Inadequate. Asterisk. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely unlock my phone. I scrolled through my contacts, my vision blurry. Who was left? Who could I possibly turn to? My finger hovered over one name. Mom. I pressed the call button, my heart pounding, a desperate rhythm against my ribs. I just needed to hear a friendly voice. I needed someone, just one person, to be on my side. To tell me I wasn't crazy. To tell me I wasn't the villain in my own tragedy. The phone rang once. Twice. Hello, her voice came through the speaker, warm and familiar. A wave of relief washed over me, so powerful it almost brought me to my knees. I opened my mouth to speak, to pour out the whole nightmare. Mom, I choked out. It's me. I need you. The story I started to tell her came out in jagged pieces, a confused, rambling mess. But she listened. She made all the right noises, shocked, gasps, sympathetic murmurs. For a few precious minutes, I felt the ground firming up beneath my feet. They said what? She asked, her voice tight with what I thought was outrage on my behalf. Her own mother said you were inadequate. Yes. That was the word she used. Can you believe that? I said, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. It's insane. I'm being gaslit by my entire family. There was a pause. Longer than I expected. When she spoke again, her tone had shifted. It was hesitant. Clinical. Well, Ethan, she started slowly. Let's not be dramatic. Are you sure you're not leaving anything out? Leaving what out? My blood ran cold. I mean, Chloe has always been a very vibrant woman. Lots of energy. What does that have to do with anything, Mom? Are you sure you've been keeping her happy? She asked. and the question landed like a stone in my gut. In all aspects of your marriage, a woman has needs, honey. If she's not getting them met at home, I couldn't speak. The same script. It was the same goddamn script Carol had used. Mom, what are you saying? I whispered, dread coiling in my stomach. I'm just saying that maybe Carol has a point, she said, her voice gaining a defensive edge. Maybe before you throw away your marriage, you should look at your own part in this. If you are physically inadequate for a woman like Chloe, then what does she owe you really? The word hit me for the second time in one day, but this time it shattered me completely. Inadequate. From my own mother. The betrayal was so absolute, so profound, it stole the air from my lungs. You're siding with them, I said, my voice flat dead. I'm not taking sides, I'm being realistic, she snapped. You need to grow up and accept the situation. Don't be so selfish. I hung up. I didn't say another word. I just ended the call and let the phone drop from my numb fingers. I was an island. No, I was less than an island. I was just a man drowning in an endless, empty ocean. My thumb scrolled through my contacts on autopilot. There was one number left. One I hadn't called in 5 years. Dad. We hadn't spoken since he moved out of state after the divorce, our relationship reduced to a polite Christmas card once a year. I had nothing left to lose. I hit dial. He answered on the second ring. Ethan. His voice was gravelly surprised. I didn't bother with pleasantries. I told him everything from Chloe's confession to my mother's final gutting verdict. I laid it all out, a clinical report of my own destruction. I expected a grunt, and I told you so about marriage. Something dismissive. Instead, there was a long silence, and then a dry, humorless chuckle. Inadequate, huh? He said. She used that word. Yeah. Jesus. The hypocrisy is stunning, even for her. What are you talking about? Ethan, why do you think we got divorced? He asked, his voice devoid of emotion. It wasn't a question, it was a statement. Your mother was sleeping with her boss for the last 3 years of our marriage. When I found out, she told me I should be more open-minded. That I was suffocating her. That I wasn't enough of a man for her. The world tilted on its axis. Everything, her weirdly clinical advice, her defense of Chloe, the time-specific times insulted, all clicked into place with a sickening snap. It wasn't about me. It was never about me. It was about her justifying her own past. She cheated on you. Like it was her job, he said. So you can listen to a hypocrite, or you can get your head on straight. First thing tomorrow, you call a lawyer. You hear me. For the first time in 24 hours, I felt a flicker of something other than pain. It was anger. Cold, clear, and sharp as a shard of glass. I hear you, I said. Armed with an hour of brutal, no-nonsense legal advice and my father's quiet support over the phone, I agreed to meet Chloe at our house. I needed to do this one last time, face to face. She was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone, looking bored. She didn't get up when I walked in. Have you come to your senses? She asked, not looking up. I've come to give you one last chance to save this marriage, Chloe, I said, my voice steadier than I thought it would be. You end it with Julian. We go to counseling. We try to fix what you broke. She finally looked at me, a smirk playing on her lips. No. No. The arrangement is not up for negotiation, she said, her voice dropping to a flat, cold monotone. Julian is a part of my life. The only thing to discuss is how you're going to accept that. So this is my final offer to you. You can get on board or you can watch from the sidelines. But it's happening, either way. There it was. The complete absence of love, of respect, of anything. I was just an obstacle to be managed. Okay, I said, nodding slowly. The cold anger inside me solidified into a single hard point of certainty. Then I want a divorce. She laughed. A short, ugly bark. Don't be ridiculous. I'm not giving you a divorce. We're not getting divorced just because you're having a tantrum. She stood up, brushing past me. You'll get over it. As she walked out the door, she paused. Oh, and I'm having the locks changed tomorrow? My lawyer said it's best if you find somewhere else to stay while you cool off. The final showdown came that night. I was at a cheap motel, a stack of legal documents on the bedside table when my phone rang. It was my mother. I just spoke to Chloe, she began. No, hello, just accusation. She told me you're trying to divorce her. After everything she's offered you, after everyone has tried to help you see reason, you're still being this stubborn. What is wrong with you, Ethan? The pressure that had been building inside me for days, the poison of every insult, every betrayal, finally found a release valve. I snapped. What's wrong with me? I laughed, a raw, ragged sound. You want to know what's wrong? I know, Mom. Dad told me everything. The line went dead silent. He told me why you two really split up. I pushed on my voice low and shaking with rage. He told me about your boss. So don't you dare preach to me about being open-minded. Don't you dare call me inadequate to justify your own pathetic history. You don't know what you're talking about, she whispered, her voice thin and panicked. Oh, I think I do, I spat. You're not defending Chloe, you're defending yourself. You just can't stand to look at a man who actually has some self-respect. You know what you are, Mom, you're a cheating whore. And you raised a daughter just like you. I hung up before she could respond, my heart hammering against my ribs. The cruelty of my own words tasted like acid, but underneath it was the clean, sharp taste of truth. A week later, I was living in the spare room of my father's small house 2 states away. It smelled like sawdust and old coffee. We didn't talk much about the past. We didn't need to. He'd just wordlessly hand me a beer when I got home from my temp job, and we'd watch the game in a comfortable silence. My phone was filled with venomous texts from Chloe and my mother, and a dozen missed calls from Carol. I'd read them, then delete them. They were ghosts from another life. My lawyer was preparing for a fight. Chloe was refusing to sign anything, claiming desertion. It was going to be long. It was going to be ugly. But one night, sitting on my dad's worn-out porch, I looked up at the unfamiliar stars and felt something I hadn't felt since that Tuesday morning. I felt solid. The world had been ripped out from under me, and I had been betrayed by the 2 women I should have been able to trust most. My life was a wreck. But it was my wreck. And for the first time, I felt like I was the one holding the hammer. I had my self-respect back. And I wasn't giving it up for anyone ever again.
Story 2.
For a long time, things were good. Or at least they were easy. My brother Sebastian and I were the poster children for the non-rebellious kind of deconstruction. We'd quietly shed the rigid conservative Christianity of our childhoods sometime in college, but we never made a big deal out of it. We still showed up for Sunday dinners. I'd help Mom with the dishes, and Sebastian would talk sports with Dad in the living room, the drone of a golf tournament on the TV, a familiar hum. We were a family. The faith part was just wallpaper. You see it so much you stop seeing it at all. That comfortable peace shattered on a perfectly normal Sunday. Mom had made her pot roast, the one that smelled like home and forgiveness. Sebastian had brought a bottle of wine. Everything was exactly as it always was until it wasn't. He waited until after Dad said grace, his words about blessings and family ringing hollow in the air a few minutes later. Mom, Dad, Sebastian started his fork hovering over his mashed potatoes. There's something I need to tell you. I'm dating someone. Someone I really care about. Mom beamed. Oh, Seb, that's wonderful. Is it Sarah from the accounting department? I always liked her. Sebastian took a deep breath. No. His name is Michael. Silence. Not a gentle pause, but a thick, heavy silence that sucked all the air out of the room. Dad put his fork down with a deliberate metallic click. Mom's smile didn't so much fade as it did freeze, a brittle, unnatural thing. His name, Dad's voice, was low flat. Yes, Sebastian said, his own voice shaking but firm. I'm gay. I watched my mother's face crumble. It was like watching a statue crack. No, she whispered, shaking her head slightly as if to dislodge a bad thought. No, Sebastian. That's not, it's a temptation, a trial. We can pray on it. It's not a trial, Mom. It's who I am. The Bible is clear on the matter, Dad stated, not looking at Sebastian, but at a fixed point on the far wall. It is an abomination. My fork clattered onto my plate. Dad, don't you dare. He finally turned his eyes on me, cold and hard as granite. This is a family matter, Laura. He times is times family, I shot back, my voice rising. He just told you something huge and vulnerable, and your first move is to quote Leviticus at him. It is a choice, Sebastian, Mom pleaded, her eyes welling up. A sinful choice. You can choose a different path. God can heal you. Sebastian just looked at her, his expression broken. He had expected disapproval, maybe some lectures. He hadn't expected this erasure of his reality. He pushed his chair back. I'm not sick, Mom. And I'm not choosing this. But I am choosing to be happy. I hoped you'd be happy for me. He looked at Dad, who was staring down at his plate as if it held the secrets to the universe. I guess I was wrong. He walked out. I stood up to follow him, but my mom grabbed my wrist. Don't you go with him? She hissed, her voice a strange mix of threat and plea. Don't you condone this? I pulled my arm away. Condone what him being happy, sorry, but I'm on Team Sebastian, always. That was the first crack. The hairline fracture that over the next few months spiderwebbed its way through our entire family foundation until it was nothing but rubble. The phone call started first. Mom crying, telling me Sebastian needed to come home and repent. Dad in the background telling her to hang up if Sebastian wouldn't listen to reason. They stopped inviting him to Sunday dinners. The first week I refused to go. The second week my mom called me sobbing. Are you abandoning us too? So I went. I went and sat in the suffocating silence, the empty chair at the table, screaming louder than any argument. I tried to talk about Sebastian, about his new promotion, about how Michael was a wonderful guy, a landscape architect who made Sebastian laugh like I hadn't heard in years. They would just stare at me. We're praying for his soul, my dad would say before changing the subject to the weather. The escalation was a slow, methodical strangulation. First, they told Sebastian he wasn't welcome at the house as long as he was living in sin. Then came the holidays. A Christmas card addressed only to me. A birthday check for me, and a text to Sebastian that said, thinking of you on your birthday, and praying you see the light. The final blow, the one that pulverized any remaining hope, came in the mail. It wasn't a letter bomb, it was worse. It was a crisp, cream-colored envelope sent by certified mail from their lawyer. Sebastian called me, his voice hollow. They did it, Laura. Did what? Seb, what's wrong? They officially disowned me, he said, and I could hear the bitter, humorless laugh catch in his throat. They sent a letter. An update to the will. I'm explicitly written out. My portion is to be redirected to their church. It even says, he trailed off, taking a shaky breath. It says, for the moral failings of our son Sebastian, who has turned his back on God and family. My blood went cold. This wasn't a heat-of-the-moment argument. This was calculated. This was legal. This was forever. I hung up with Sebastian, promising I'd be over in 20 minutes with a bottle of whiskey and a pizza, and immediately dialed my parents' number. My dad picked up on the second ring. "Laura." "You disowned him." I said, no preamble. "You got a Times lawyer, Times, and you put it on paper." "We did what we had to do," he said, his voice devoid of any emotion. "We cannot and will not condone his lifestyle. It goes against everything we believe." "Believe? What do you believe in?" "A God that tells you to throw your own son away." "Is that what you tithe for every Sunday? For the privilege of hating your own child?" "You watch your tone," he warned. "No, I'm done watching my tone. I'm done sitting at your silent dinner table pretending this is normal. You had a choice here. You had a choice between your dogma and your son, and you chose wrong. You chose a book of rules over a living, breathing person who loves you." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I could hear my mom crying softly in the background. For a second, a stupid, hopeful part of me thought he might break. He might say he'd made a mistake. Instead, his voice came back colder than ever. "The Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Sometimes a branch must be cut off to save the tree." He hung up. I stood there, phone pressed to my ear, listening to the dead air. That was it. The schism was complete. The line wasn't just drawn. It was a canyon, and they were on the other side. My loyalty was with my brother. It always would be. I put my phone in my pocket, grabbed my keys, and walked out the door, away from one half of my family and toward the other. I didn't know it then, but the war was only just beginning. 2 years later, Sebastian tried to build a bridge. He sent my parents an invitation to his wedding. Not an email, but a thick, gorgeous cardstock invitation with his and Michael's names embossed in gold foil. A tangible olive branch. The response was a text message to me, not even to him. It was from my mother. "Tell your brother we will not be attending his event. We will be praying for him." The finality of it was a relief. The hope I hadn't even realized I was clinging to finally died, and I was free. I stopped going to the occasional tense holiday meal. I stopped forcing conversations. My relationship with my parents became a flat line. Then Liam asked me to marry him. It happened on a Tuesday in our kitchen while I was trying to scrub a stubborn stain out of a pan. He just knelt, holding out a simple, perfect ring, and the whole world went quiet. I said yes, crying and laughing into his shoulder, the smell of dish soap and his cologne mixing into the scent of my future. A week later, we were sitting on the floor of our living room, surrounded by venue pamphlets and takeout boxes. "Okay," Liam said, tapping his pen on a legal pad. "The big one. The guest list." We breezed through friends, cousins, his side of the family. Then we got to my section. I wrote down Sebastian Bestman and Michael. I wrote down Aunt Carol and Uncle Steve. Then I stopped. Liam watched me, his expression gentle. He already knew. "We don't have to," he said softly. "We're not," I said, the words coming out more forcefully than I intended. "They don't get to be there. They don't get to toast to our happiness when they tried to smother my brothers. They don't get to smile for pictures and pretend they're proud of me when they threw half of their family away." I looked at him, my eyes stinging. I will not have Sebastian spend my wedding day looking over his shoulder, wondering if they're going to make a scene or whisper to some distant cousin about his lifestyle. No. This day is for us. For our family. The one we're building. Liam took my hand and squeezed it. "Okay," he said. "Them's the rules." It felt right. It felt clean. For about a month it was. Then I made the mistake of calling Aunt Carol to tell her the date. "Oh, Laura, honey, that's wonderful. Just wonderful," she gushed. "Your mother must be absolutely over the moon. She hasn't said a word, that sly fox." "Yeah, well, we're just getting the word out," I mumbled, a knot forming in my stomach. "Well, you just let me know what she needs help with." "I am Times there, Times," she said. We have to make this perfect for her little girl. The call ended, and I felt a sense of dread so profound it was almost paralyzing. I knew what was coming. 2 days later, my phone buzzed. It was a text from a number I didn't have saved, but I knew who it was. My mother? Aunt Carol told me about your engagement. I guess my invitation was lost in the mail. I stared at the message, my heart hammering. I didn't reply. 5 minutes later, another one. Laura, this isn't funny. Your father and I are your parents. You can't be serious. Then a call. I let it go to voicemail. Then another text. After everything we have done for you, this is how you repay us. By shaming us in front of the entire family, you are a cruel, ungrateful child. My father's turn came via voicemail. It was short. You have made your choice. You have sided with sin and disrespected your mother. Do not expect to hear from me again until you come to your senses and apologize. My hands were shaking. Apologize. For what? For them disowning my brother, for them sending a goddamn lawyer's letter. Liam came into the room and saw my face. He took the phone from my hand, read the text, and his expression hardened. He held down her contact. Block. He did the same for my father's. Block. The silence that followed was bliss. It lasted for 6 hours. Then the real storm broke. Aunt Carol was first. Laura, I just got off the phone with your mother. She is hysterical. You have broken her heart. You times have times to invite them. They're your parents. Did you call Mom when she and Dad disowned Sebastian? I asked, my voice dangerously calm. There was a sputtering on the other end. Well, that's different. That was a private family matter. This is my private family matter, I said, and hung up. The text started coming from numbers I hadn't blocked. Cousins. Uncles. My second cousin Jenny, who I hadn't seen in 5 years. Hey, heard you're being a real bridezilla. Chill out, it's just one day. Your parents love you? You're being dramatic? Family is forever. You're going to regret this. Every buzz of my phone felt like a small electric shock. They were a swarm, a hive mind of familial obligation, and they were all coming for me. The narrative was set. I was the cruel daughter punishing her loving, God-fearing parents. The years of bigotry, the disownment, the letter from the lawyer, all of it was erased, painted over with the simple damning mantra, times, but they're your parents. Asterisk? I threw my phone onto the couch and buried my face in my hands. The certainty I'd felt was crumbling, being chipped away with every message. Was I being cruel? Was I using my wedding as a weapon? The guilt was a physical thing, a heavy weight pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. Maybe they're right, I whispered to Liam that night, staring up at the ceiling in the dark. Maybe I'm the monster here. I'm choosing my brother over my own mother and father. He turned on his side to face me, his hand finding mine in the dark. You're not choosing your brother times over, times them. You're choosing your brother. Period. You're choosing love over bigotry. You're choosing peace over drama. They made their choice a long time ago, Laura. You're just accepting it. His words helped, but the doubt lingered. A few days later, I called Sebastian. I needed to hear his voice. Hey you, he answered, sounding cheerful. How's the world's most popular wedding planner? About that, I said, trying to keep my voice light. We've hit a snag. I told him everything. The texts, the calls, the pressure from every corner of the family. I told him how everyone was framing it, how I was the bad guy. When I finished, there was a long silence on the line. "Laura," he said, finally, his voice thick with an emotion I couldn't place. "You don't have to do this. Not for me. If it's going to tear everything apart, I don't have to come. Michael and I can take a trip that weekend. We'll celebrate with you when you get back. Just make peace. Please." His words were meant to free me, but they felt like a cage. The idea of him, my best man, my brother, missing my wedding to appease the very people who had hurt him so deeply made something in me snap into focus. The doubt, the guilt, the noise from everyone else, it all vanished. "Don't you dare say that," I said, my voice shaking with sudden crystalline fury. "Don't you ever, ever say that. You will be standing up there next to me. You will be holding the rings. You will be making an inappropriate joke in your speech. This is not negotiable." I took a breath, my vision strangely clear. "This isn't just for you anymore, Seb. This is for me. This is my one condition for my own life. The guest list is limited to people who love and accept my entire family. My Times, Whole Times family. It was a declaration of war and a peace treaty all in one. The revenge wasn't loud or explosive. It was quiet. It was a line drawn, not in the sand, but in concrete. On one side was the family I was born into. On the other, the one I was choosing. And in my heart, the war was finally over. I had already won.
Story 3.
My son Ethan is 25 years old. He lives in my house, eats my food, and uses my credit card for gas money and God knows what else. I've paid every penny of his college tuition, a 5-year journey for a 4-year degree. He still hasn't finished. Some might call me an enabler. I call it being a widow who's just trying to hold what's left of her family together. When my husband Mark died, a part of Ethan died with him. The ambitious, kind boy who helped me with the groceries and talked about becoming an architect was replaced by a sullen, listless man-child who believed the world, and specifically my wallet, owed him something. He'd walk through the house his father built, running a hand along the walls, and say things like, "I'll probably knock out this wall when I take over." Not times, if times, but times when, asterisk. As if my death was just a future real estate transaction. Then came Sarah. The first time Ethan brought her home, she walked in wearing ripped shorts and a crop top, didn't bother to take off her dirty sneakers, and plopped onto my white sofa. She was 20, with a face full of piercings and an attitude to match. "Hey," she said, not to me, but to the TV. She picked up the remote and changed the channel. I was in the middle of a movie. "I'm Gloria, Ethan's mom," I said, my voice tight. She grunted in acknowledgement. "You got any snacks?" That was Sarah. For the next 7 months, she was a permanent fixture, a human stain on my furniture. She left wet towels on the bathroom floor, half-empty mugs in every room, and used my expensive face creams without asking. She'd speak to me only when she wanted something, usually a ride or for me to order them a pizza. Ethan, blinded by whatever spell she'd cast, saw none of it. He saw a free spirit. I saw a parasite. He started missing more classes. His grades, which were already mediocre, tanked. He stopped talking about his future and started talking about their future. When Sarah and I get a place, he'd say, usually while asking me for money to take her out to a fancy dinner we both knew he couldn't afford. The tension simmered a low boil, just waiting to spill over. It finally happened at my sister Carol's 30th wedding anniversary party. It was a big affair, a catered event in her backyard. I'd told Ethan that this was important, that he and Sarah needed to be on their best behavior. Yeah, we know, he'd said, rolling his eyes. Be nice to the old people. They arrived an hour late. Sarah was wearing a dress that was more of a suggestion than an actual piece of clothing. She made a beeline for the open bar, while Ethan got cornered by an uncle asking about his college progress. I watched her from across the lawn, downing champagne like it was water. An hour later, I heard a commotion near the gift table. My niece Jessica, who was 17, was in tears. Sarah was standing over her, her face contorted in a drunken rage. "I saw you," Sarah slurred, jabbing a finger in Jessica's face. "You were flirting with him." "He's my cousin," Jessica cried. "I was just saying hello." Ethan rushed over, but not to calm Sarah down. He immediately took her side. "Why are you messing with my girlfriend, Jess? What did you say to her?" My brother-in-law Dave stepped in. "Ethan, your girlfriend is drunk, and she's harassing a minor. You need to take her home. Now." Instead of being ashamed, Ethan puffed out his chest. "Don't you talk to her like that. You don't know anything." "I know she's causing a scene at my party," Dave said, his voice dangerously low. "Then maybe your party sucks," Sarah shrieked. She grabbed a half-full bottle of wine off a nearby table and made a gesture like she was going to throw it. That was it. I grabbed Ethan's arm, my nails digging into his skin. "Get her out of here, now." His eyes were filled with a fury I hadn't seen since Mark's funeral. He looked at me like I was the enemy. "Fine. We'll go. But this is on you. All of you." He dragged Sarah away, who was still screaming insults over her shoulder. The party was ruined. My sister's night was ruined. I spent the next hour apologizing to everyone. The humiliation burned in my stomach like acid. When I got home, I went straight to Ethan's room. He was sitting on his bed, a mountain of unwashed clothes at his feet, while Sarah was passed out, still in her dress, snoring. "We need to talk," I said, keeping my voice down. He didn't look at me. "I'm tired." "I don't care. You embarrassed this entire family tonight. You let that girl, that child, verbally assault your cousin and threaten your uncle." "She was just defending me," he mumbled, picking at a loose thread on his comforter. I felt a snap deep inside me. The last thread of patience I had for him. "Defending you, Ethan, she's a mess. She is dragging you down into the gutter with her, and you're letting her." He finally looked up his face, a mask of indignation. "You just don't like her because she's not some perfect little housewife you can approve of." "I don't like her because she is rude, disrespectful, and a drunk," I shot back. "And until you can both figure out how to act like decent human beings, you are not to bring her to another family event. You're both banned. Do you understand me?" His jaw tightened. He stood up, towering over me. "You can't do that." "I just did," I said, my voice ice. "This is my family. My house. My rules." I walked out and slammed his door. The next 2 weeks were a suffocating silent war. We lived in the same house, but on different planets. He'd be in the kitchen when I came in, and he'd grab his bowl of cereal and walk out without a word. I'd leave his clean laundry outside his door. He left his share of the bills on the counter for me to find. The air was thick with resentment. I was miserable, but I refused to back down. I was his mother, not his doormat. I kept waiting for an apology, a sign of remorse, anything. It never came. Then one Thursday evening, I was in the living room trying to pay bills and ignore the hole my son's lifestyle was burning in my finances. I heard his key in the lock. I didn't look up. I braced myself for another night of hostile silence. He didn't go to his room. His footsteps stopped in the doorway. "Mom." His voice was different. Not angry. Not sullen. It was weirdly cheerful. It set my teeth on edge. I finally looked up from the stack of papers. He was standing there, fidgeting with his hands, a nervous but triumphant grin plastered on his face. And then Sarah stepped out from behind him. She was beaming a smug cat. That ate the canary look in her eyes. She held up her left hand and a gaudy, oversized ring caught the light from the lamp. "We have something we want to tell you, Ethan," said his voice, brimming with a kind of challenging excitement. He took a deep breath, his eyes locked on mine. Waiting for a reaction. So he prodded a smug grin on his face. "Do you approve of her now?" A sound escaped my throat. It wasn't a word. It was a laugh. A short, sharp, ugly bark of disbelief. It was the most honest sound I'd made in months. The triumphant look on his face curdled. Sarah's smile faltered. "No, Ethan," I said, my voice suddenly flat and cold. "I do not." His face flushed a deep, blotchy red. "What? Are you kidding me? After all this, you're still on this?" All what I asked, gesturing vaguely at the ring, the girl, the whole pathetic spectacle. 7 months of her living here like a slob. The drunken scene at your aunt's party. This engagement doesn't erase any of that. It just makes it worse. "You don't know her," he yelled, his voice cracking. "You've never even tried." "I know what I see," I said, finally standing up. I was done being small in my own home. I see a 20-year-old girl who can't hold her liquor and a 25-year-old man who can't hold a job. You can't do your own laundry. You can't cook a meal that doesn't come out of a box. You live off my money under my roof, and you have the audacity to think you're ready to support a wife. "I'll get a better job," he shot back. "We'll figure it out. We love each other." Love doesn't pay the mortgage, Ethan. Love doesn't buy groceries or pay for health insurance. And I'm sure as hell not paying for it. Sarah, who had been silent until now, found her voice. "We were hoping you'd help with the wedding. We want something nice, you know, at that vineyard upstate." The sheer, unadulterated entitlement of it all stole my breath. I turned my gaze on her, and for the first time she actually flinched. "Let me make this perfectly clear," I said, my voice dangerously low. "I will not give you one single penny for a wedding." Ethan stepped in front of her, a human shield of indignation. "You can't do that. It's my money too. Dad would have wanted." "Don't you dare," I snapped, pointing a trembling finger at him. "Don't you dare bring your father into this. Your father was a man who worked 60-hour weeks to build this life. He would be ashamed of what you've become." Tears welled in his eyes, but they were tears of rage, not sorrow. "This isn't fair. You're just trying to control me." "No, Ethan. I'm done. This is me letting go." I took a deep, steadying breath, the words lining up in my head, a final, desperate gambit. "Here's the deal. You want to be a man? You want to get married? Fine. But the day you say, 'I do,' is the day you move out. The allowance stops. The credit card gets cut off. The car insurance is in your name. You want an extravagant wedding? You can pay for it yourselves." He stared at me, his mouth hanging open. "You'd kick me out." "I will continue to pay your college tuition because I made a promise to your father that I would see you get your degree. That is the last and only thing I will pay for. The rest, the free ride, it's over. I have 2 other children to get through college, and I will not sacrifice their futures to fund your fantasy." "Our fantasy?" he sputtered. "This is our life. This is my home." And there it was. The heart of it all. The rotten core of his entitlement. "No," I said, the word landing between us like a block of ice. "It's my home. Mark and I built it. It is not and was never promised to you. When I'm gone, this house and whatever is left will be split 3 ways. It is not your birthright, Ethan. It's not yours to take over. You have no claim on it." The color drained from his face. He looked like I had physically struck him. He had built his entire future on the foundation of a lie he told himself, and I had just demolished it with a single sentence. He just stood there, swaying slightly, speechless. It was Sarah who broke the silence. "You're a bitch," she hissed. I didn't even look at her. My eyes were locked on my son. "Get out of my house," he whispered, his voice hoarse with fury. "Both of you. Just go." He didn't need to be told twice. He grabbed Sarah's hand and practically dragged her out the front door, slamming it so hard a picture frame rattled on the wall. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the sound of my own ragged breathing. The next day at the office, I was a wreck. I'd barely slept. I'd replayed the conversation 1,000 times, each word a fresh stab of guilt. I confided in 2 of my coworkers during our lunch break, hoping for some reassurance. I didn't get it. "You're kicking him out," Brenda said, her eyes wide over her Cobb salad. "Gloria, he's your son. You can't just throw him on the street." "I'm not," I argued, my voice weaker than I wanted it to be. "I'm just cutting off the financial support if he makes this ridiculous choice." "It's the same thing," Diane chimed in, adjusting her glasses. "They're young. They'll make mistakes. That's what family is for, to be a safety net. Mark would never have wanted you to be so harsh." The mention of his name was a low blow, and she knew it. The sandwich in my hands felt like a lead weight. They saw a cruel mother punishing her son for being in love. They didn't see the years of enabling the listlessness, the disrespect, the slow-motion car crash I was desperately trying to prevent. They didn't see the boy his father had adored being eaten alive by a lazy, entitled man. I spent the rest of the day in a fog, their words echoing in my head. Asterisk. You're being too harsh. He's your son. You can't just throw him out. Asterisk. Driving home, I passed the park where I used to take Ethan to play on the swings. I saw him as a little boy, no older than 5, running back to me with a fistful of dandelions. His face bright with unconditional love. "For you, Mommy," he'd said. Tears streamed down my face. Was I that monster? Was I the villain for demanding my adult son finally stand on his own 2 feet? Was I a bad mother for refusing to fund a disastrous marriage I knew would ruin him? I pulled into the driveway of the house Mark built. My house. The house Ethan believed was his prize for simply existing. I looked at the sturdy brick, the garden I tended every weekend, the window of the bedroom where I'd rocked 3 babies to sleep. This wasn't just a house. It was my life's work. It was my future and the future of my other children. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Asterisk, you destroyed our lives. I hope you're happy alone in that big empty house. Don't expect to ever see your grandchildren. Asterisk. It had to be from Sarah. The venom was pure her. But the words were Ethan's. I could feel him behind them. The tears stopped. The guilt in my stomach cooled and hardened into something else. Something cold and sharp. Maybe I was the villain of his story. But in my own, I was just trying to survive. He thought this was a punishment. He didn't understand. This wasn't punishment. It was consequences. And letting him face them, letting him fail and flounder and learn on his own, was the only shred of a chance he had left. Forcing my entitled son to finally grow up wasn't cruelty. It was my last desperate, vengeful act of love.
Story 4.
I remember the exact shade of paint we argued over for the living room. Seacliff Gray Liam had called it. I'd wanted something warmer, but he'd insisted gray was more timeless. He talked about our future like that, a solid, well-planned thing built on timeless foundations. We had the apartment, the shared Netflix account, and Gus, our goofy golden retriever who loved Liam just a little bit more. We were a unit. And us. The crack started with a name, Heather. Heather from work is hilarious, he'd say, phone glowing in his lap as we watched TV. She gets my sense of humor. Oh yeah, what's so funny? I'd ask, trying to nudge Gus off my side of the couch. Just work stuff. He wouldn't get it. She was his work wife, a term I've since decided should be grounds for immediate termination. He swore it was platonic. A joke. Just someone to survive the corporate grind with. I tried to believe him. I really did. I invited her to my birthday drinks. She was mousy and quiet, clinging to Liam's side and offering me a polite, tight-lipped smile that never reached her eyes. She seemed harmless. A beige-colored person. 2 months later, Liam came home from work and wouldn't look at me. He just stood in the doorway of our sea-cliff gray living room, his shoulders slumped. "I can't do this anymore," he said to the floor. "Do what, work late? Because I can order pizza." I was trying to make it easy for him to smooth over whatever rough day he'd had. No, Clara. Asterisk. This asterisk. He finally looked at me and his eyes were hollow. Us. I can still feel the air leaving my lungs. It was a physical punch. "What are you talking about? We were just looking at vacation spots last night." "I know. I'm sorry." His excuses were a waterfall of cliches. He felt trapped. He needed to find himself. He wasn't the man I deserved. It was all polished, rehearsed bullshit. He'd already packed a bag. It was in his car. He took nothing but his clothes and his PlayStation. He didn't even fight me for Gus. That should have been the biggest red flag of all. The next 3 months were a blur of takeout containers, tear-soaked pillows, and obsessive social media stalking. His accounts were locked down tight. Nothing. I was a ghost, haunting a life I no longer had access to. My friends tried. They brought wine and ice cream and told me I was better off, but their words felt like trying to put a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. The confirmation came on a Tuesday. A mutual friend from Liam's office, probably drunk on post-work margaritas and guilt, sent me a single, unsolicited screenshot. It was a photo from Heather's Instagram, which was public. Liam and Heather grinning, arms wrapped around each other in front of the Eiffel Tower. The caption, 6 months with my favorite person. He makes Paris even more magical. The picture was posted yesterday. 6 months. I did the math, my fingers shaking. He had been with her for 2 full months before he even bothered to break my heart. Our entire last vacation, our final I love yous, the fight over the damn gray paint, it was all a lie. He wasn't finding himself. He had already found someone else. That screenshot broke me. But it also lit a fire. I looked at my reflection in the dark screen of my phone, puffy eyes, unwashed hair, Liam's old sweatshirt hanging off me. I didn't recognize the woman staring back. And in that moment, I decided I never wanted to see her again. The next day, I booked my first therapy session. Dr. Anya was a no-nonsense woman who told me to feel the anger instead of drowning in the sadness. So I did. I got angry at Liam. At Heather. At myself for being so blind. I started journaling, filling notebooks with furious, jagged letters. I ran until my lungs burned. I lifted weights until my arms shook, turning the phantom weight in my chest into something I could physically conquer. My best friend Sarah dragged me on a backpacking trip through the Sierras. On the third day, after a brutal 8-hour hike, I stood on a granite peak watching the sun dip below the mountains, and I felt nothing. Not sadness, not anger. Just the wind on my face and the solid ground beneath my feet. It was the first time I'd felt peace in almost a year. I came back different. Stronger. I started saying yes to things. Yes to after-work drinks. Yes to that cooking class I'd always wanted to take. Yes to Sarah setting me up on a blind date. He's a firefighter, Clara. A literal, real-life hero who saves cats from trees. You can't say no. I laughed. A real, genuine laugh. Okay, fine. One date. His name was Ben. He was tall with kind eyes and a smile that crinkled at the corners. He picked a trendy little Italian place downtown with low lighting and amazing pasta. The conversation was easy. He talked about his job, the crazy calls, the camaraderie at the firehouse. He asked about my marketing work, about Gus, about my backpacking trip. He actually listened. He wasn't looking at his phone. He wasn't scanning the room. His attention was entirely on me. For the first time in over a year, I felt that little spark. The flutter of possibility. I was in the middle of telling him a ridiculous story about Gus stealing a whole rotisserie chicken off the counter, my hands gesturing wildly, my head thrown back in a laugh. He was laughing with me, his eyes bright and focused. It was perfect. It was easy. It was everything my relationship with Liam wasn't at the end. And that's when I heard it. A laugh from across the room. A wheezing, familiar cackle that sent an involuntary shiver down my spine. My smile froze. My blood went cold. I slowly, reluctantly turned my head toward the sound. And there he was. Sitting 2 tables away, crammed into a booth that seemed far too small for him, was Liam. But it wasn't the Liam I remembered. The man who used to meticulously track his macros and spend hours at the gym was gone. In his place was a doughy, bloated stranger. His face was puffy, his neck lost in the tight collar of a wrinkled polo shirt that strained across a prominent gut. He looked soft, unhappy, unrecognizably fat. And across from him, picking at a salad with pursed lips, was Heather. She was still beige, but now it was a faded, washed-out beige. The magical Paris glow from her Instagram post had evidently worn off, replaced by the flat, unforgiving light of a Tuesday night in a pasta restaurant. My own laugh died in my throat. Every muscle in my body tensed, a primal fight-or-flight instinct kicking in. For a split second, the floor dropped out from under me and I was back in that Seacliff Gray living room, the air thick with his bullshit excuses. Then Dr. Anya's voice echoed in my head as clear as if she were sitting next to me. Asterisk. You are not that person anymore. You are here. Now. Be here. Now. Asterisk. I took a sharp, silent breath. I blinked once, forcing the ghost of the past away. I turned back to the man in front of me. The real man. Sorry, I said, my smile returning, feeling only a little brittle at the edges. You were saying Gus and the chicken. Ben was still grinning, completely oblivious. Yeah, so did you ever get it back from him? Are you kidding? By the time I caught him, he'd inhaled the whole thing. There was nothing left but a crime scene of bones and regret. Mostly my regret. He laughed. A deep, genuine sound that warmed the space between us. A dog of action. I respect that. I kept my eyes locked on his. I listened intently as he told me a story about a rookie at the firehouse who tried to cook a frozen pizza without taking the cardboard off the bottom. I laughed until my stomach hurt. I felt his knee brush against mine under the table, and I didn't pull away. I was here. I was present. I was on a fantastic date with a handsome, funny man who saved people for a living. But I'm only human. I snuck a glance. Liam had seen me. His fork was frozen halfway to his mouth. The color had drained from his already pallid face, leaving it a pasty gray. His eyes were wide with a look I knew all too well, the cornered, panicked expression of a man who's been caught. He stared at me, at my smile at Ben, laughing across from me. He looked from my fitted black dress to his own strange shirt buttons. I could practically see the gears grinding in his head, the pathetic, frantic calculations. Heather, noticing his sudden paralysis, followed his gaze. Her mousy face tightened. Her eyes, small and hard, swept over me with a flicker of pure venom before she looked away, her posture rigid. She said something to Liam, a short, sharp whisper. He didn't answer. He just lowered his fork, his appetite clearly gone. For the rest of their meal, they didn't speak. They sat in a thick, miserable silence, pushing food around their plates. Liam kept stealing glances, each one more fraught than the last. Heather just stared at her pasta, her jaw clenched. They looked like two strangers forced to share a table at a bus station. Our own conversation, meanwhile, flowed like wine. Ben and I talked about everything and nothing bad, movies, dream vacations, the best place to get a burrito in the city. He paid the bill, insisting over my protests. "You can get the next one," he said, and the unspoken promise of a second date hung in the air, sparkling and full of potential. As we stood to leave, I knew this was the moment of truth. To get to the exit, they would have to walk directly past our table. My heart gave a little thump, a final echo of the old fear. I took a steadying breath. Ben put a light hand on the small of my back, guiding me toward the aisle. Just as he did, Liam and Heather were getting up. Their timing was hideously perfect. Liam saw Ben's hand on my back, and he flinched as if he'd been slapped. He quickly looked at the floor, his shoulders slumping in defeat. He shuffled past his gaze, fixed on his own feet, a man desperately trying to become invisible. Heather trailed behind him, her head held high in a show of defiant pride, but the bitter set of her mouth gave it all away. She refused to look at me. I didn't look at them either. As they passed, I turned my head slightly, smiled up at Ben, and said, "That story about the cat in the vending machine is legitimately the funniest thing I've ever heard." I felt their presence pass by like a cold draft, and then they were gone. I didn't turn to watch them go. Ben walked me to my car, the cool night air feeling clean and fresh. Under the warm glow of a streetlight, he stopped. "I had a really great time tonight, Clara," he said, his kind eyes crinkling at the corners. "Me too," I said, and I meant it more than I'd meant anything in a long time. He leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't a firework exploding movie scene kiss. It was better. It was gentle and sure and warm, a kiss that felt like a beginning. When I got home, Gus greeted me at the door, his tail thumping a frantic rhythm against the wall. I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door and knelt to bury my face in his soft, familiar fur. Leaning against the doorframe, I thought about Liam. I had spent months fantasizing about this moment, playing out 100 different scenarios in my head. I'd be in a killer dress. I'd say something witty and devastating. I'd make him see exactly what he'd lost. But the reality was so much quieter and so much more satisfying. I felt no vengeful thrill, no surge of triumphant rage. There was no anger left to fuel it. All I felt was a strange, distant pity. Pity for the man who had traded a life we were building for that. For silent, miserable dinners. And a body that looked as unhappy as his eyes. He hadn't just left me. He had left himself. He'd given up. I looked around my own apartment, at the warm colors I'd chosen, at the framed photos of my friends on my backpacking trip of Gus. My life was full and vibrant. My life was my own. He hadn't broken me. He had freed me. And as I hung up my keys, I realized the ultimate revenge wasn't making him miserable. It was being happy without him.
Story 5.
The phone rang for the 10th time, a hollow mocking sound in the too-quiet house. I watched the snow swirl outside the kitchen window, piling up in thick white drifts against the fence. It was beautiful and suffocating. Just like my marriage, I guess. Something had been off for months, a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. Marie called it stress from work. I called it bullshit. It was in the way she'd angle her phone away from me, the way her laughter sounded forced when I walked into a room while she was texting. Little things. 1,000 tiny cuts that leave you bleeding out before you even realize you're wounded. Girls' night, she'd said, kissing me on the cheek. The kiss didn't land. It was just a press of cold lips. Rebecca's hosting. I'll probably just stay over with the storm coming in. Don't wait up. That was 8 hours ago. The storm was a full-blown blizzard now. And Marie wasn't answering her phone. Neither was Rebecca. My gut twisted. It was the same ugly knot I'd been trying to ignore for a year. The one that tightened every time she came home late, smelling of wine and a perfume that wasn't hers. Fuck this, I muttered to the empty room. I grabbed my keys and pulled on my boots. The kids were asleep upstairs. Carrie, my sweet 10-year-old girl, and 6-year-old Ben. the thought of them safe and warm in their beds was the only thing keeping me from punching a hole through the wall. They deserved a mother who came home. They deserved a father who wasn't a fool. The drive to Rebecca's was hell. My truck fishtailed on the unplowed roads, the wipers fighting a losing battle against the thick, wet snow. Every slide of the tires felt like my life skidding out of my control. Each red light was a new spike of adrenaline. What was I even doing, driving through a blizzard like a maniac because my wife won't answer her phone? I was pathetic. Or I was finally done being lied to. Rebecca lived in one of those new subdivisions on the other side of town. Big, soulless houses that all looked the same. I nearly missed hers, the numbers on the mailbox obscured by a thick crust of snow. I slammed the truck into park and left it running, headlights cutting through the swirling white. The porch light was on. I stomped up the steps, my heart hammering against my ribs, and pounded on the door. For a long moment there was nothing. Just the howl of the wind. I was about to pound on it again when the door cracked open. Rebecca stood there clutching a robe tight at her throat. Her hair was a mess, and her eyes were wide with the kind of panic she couldn't hide. "Peter, what are you doing here? It's 2 a.m. "Is Marie here?" I asked, pushing past her into the foyer. The house was warm, quiet. Too quiet. No music, no sounds of laughter or conversation. No sign of a girls' night. Yes, she's sleeping," Rebecca stammered, blocking my path to the rest of the house. "She had a little too much wine. You should just let her sleep it off." I looked right through her. "Where?" "Peter, don't. You should just go home. She'll call you in the morning." Her face was a mask of flimsy excuses. The smell of cheap lies filled the air. I saw it then. The pity in her eyes. She knew. She'd been covering for Marie this whole time. The rage that had been simmering in my gut for months finally boiled over. "Get out of my way, Rebecca." My voice was low, a gravelly sound I didn't recognize. She flinched but held her ground. "Please, just go." I shoved past her. Not hard, but enough to send her stumbling back against the wall. I didn't care. I stalked down the hallway. Living room empty. Kitchen empty except for 2 wine glasses in the sink. I headed for the stairs. "Peter, stop," she whisper-shouted from behind me. I ignored her. There was a guest room at the end of the hall upstairs. I'd helped them move a dresser into it last summer. The door was closed. I put my hand on the knob. It was cold, solid. In that split second, I had a choice. I could turn around, get back in my truck, and pretend this never happened. I could go home and keep living the lie, keep swallowing the poison because it was easier than the cure. Or I could open the door. My hand turned the knob. The room was dark, lit only by the faint gray light filtering through the window. For a second, I thought Rebecca was telling the truth. Then my eyes adjusted. 2 figures in the bed. A tangle of sheets and limbs. Marie's blonde hair was unmistakable, fanned out across the pillow. Curled around her was a man. A man who wasn't me. Something inside me didn't just break. It detonated. The world went red. I didn't shout. I didn't think. I lunged. I yanked the man out of the bed by his hair. He was bigger than me, but he was disoriented, naked, and scrambling. It didn't matter. I was pure blind rage. My fist connected with his jaw. A wet cracking sound. He crumpled to the floor. I got on top of him, my hands finding his throat, my thumbs digging into his windpipe. He gurgled, clawing at my arms. Marie was screaming. A shrill, terrified sound. "Peter, stop! Oh my God, stop!" I barely heard her. All I could see was this stranger's face contorted in fear. The man who had been in my wife's bed. In my life. A lamp crashed to the floor. Rebecca was pulling at my shoulders, shouting my name. You're going to kill him. Peter, get off him. Her words finally cut through the haze. I felt her nails digging into my arms as she and Marie somehow managed to haul me off him. I stumbled back, landing hard against the wall, sliding down to the floor. I was on my knees, chest heaving, knuckles split and bleeding. The man on the floor was choking, gasping for air, a dark bruise already blooming on his cheek. Rebecca was helping him up, shielding him with her body. But I wasn't looking at them. I was looking at my wife. She was huddled against the headboard, clutching a sheet to her chest. Her face was pale, streaked with tears. But it wasn't fear in her eyes. It wasn't remorse. It was something else. Something I'd seen 1,000 times but never understood until this exact moment. It was pity. She was looking at me like I was something pathetic she had scraped off her shoe. That look on her face broke the last thread holding me together. I got up, grabbed her arm, and dragged her out of that house, a sheet still tangled around her waist. I threw her in the passenger seat of my truck. The drive home was a blur of fury and snow. Words ugly and sharp filled the cab. I remember turning to look at her, my hand raised and seeing the headlights. Then a universe of screaming metal and shattering glass. The first call I made was to my parents. I was sitting in a plastic chair in the hospital waiting room, the smell of antiseptic burning my nostrils. My right hand was bandaged, my ribs ached, but I was walking. Marie wasn't. She's alive, I said into the phone, my voice flat. Crushed shoulder, some broken ribs. They're watching for a collapsed lung. Oh, thank God, my mom breathed. Peter, what happened? The storm. She wasn't at Rebecca's for a girls' night, I cut her off. She was sleeping with someone else. I found them. We crashed on the way home. Silence. A thick, heavy stillness on the other end of the line. I'm divorcing her, I said. It's over. The second call was to her parents. I used the same tone, the same clipped, emotionless delivery. The facts laid out like slabs of meat on a butcher's block. Her mother started crying, babbling about forgiveness and mistakes. I hung up on her. I didn't feel rage anymore. I didn't feel anything. I was a machine, executing a protocol. The love, the warmth, the life we built, it had all been cauterized in the wreck. My lawyer, a shark named Costello my father had on retainer, didn't waste time with sympathy. He wore a suit so sharp it could cut glass, and he looked at my case like a math problem. She was unfaithful. You have proof. Witnesses, however compromised, he said, steepling his fingers. This simplifies things. We'll file for at-fault divorce. We'll get a PI to dig into her financials, her phone records. Standard procedure. He paused, looking at a checklist on his legal pad. And we'll need DNA tests for the children. I stared at him. What? Paternity tests, he clarified, as if I were a child. It's boilerplate, Peter. We have to verify paternity to settle custody and support. We don't leave any doors open for her to contest later. It's just a box we have to check. A box to check. Carrie and Ben. My kids. The idea was so absurd, so insulting it barely registered. That's not necessary. They're my kids. I'm sure they are, Costello said, his face unreadable. But the court doesn't run on certainty, it runs on proof. It's a simple cheek swab. Get it done. 2 weeks later, I was back in Costello's leather mahogany office. He slid 2 envelopes across the polished surface of his desk. He opened the first one. Benjamin Davies. Paternity confirmed. 99.99% probability. He pushed it aside. He picked up the second one, slitting it open with a silver letter opener. He read the single sheet of paper inside, and his professional mask flickered for just a second. A tiny, almost imperceptible muscle twitched in his jaw. He slid the paper over to me without a word. The black and white text was stark. Clinical. Asterisk. Subject. Carrie Davies. Asterisk. Asterisk. Conclusion. The alleged father is excluded as the biological father of the child. Asterisk. The words didn't make sense. I read them again. And again. Asterisk. Excluded as the biological father. Asterisk. My vision tunneled. The hum of the city outside the window faded to a dull roar in my ears. Costello was saying something, but his voice was distorted like it was coming from underwater. Carrie. My little girl. The one I taught to ride a bike, her terrified little hands gripping mine. The one who fell asleep on my chest every time we watched a movie. The scraped knees I'd bandaged, the bedtime stories I'd read, the monster checks under the bed. Her smile, which was the only thing that made sense in the world. A lie. All of it. A lie. The mediation was held in a sterile conference room. Just me, Costello, Marie, and her lawyer. She wore a black sling on her arm, a permanent reminder of that night. Her face was pale and drawn. She wouldn't look at me. I didn't speak. I just took the lab report from my briefcase and slid it across the table. She stared at it. Her lawyer, a tired-looking woman in her 50s, picked it up and read it. Her shoulders slumped. She whispered something to Marie. Marie finally looked up at me. There were no tears, no shock, just a hollowed-out resignation like a soldier who had finally been captured after a long, pointless war. Peter, She started. Don't, I said. My voice was quiet, but it cut through the room like a razor. Don't you dare say you're sorry. Just answer the question. Who is he? She shook her head, a small, pathetic motion. I don't know. The air left my lungs. What do you mean you don't know? Her lawyer sighed. My client is prepared to state for the record that during the time of Carrie's conception, she was involved in multiple extramarital affairs. Multiple. The word hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't one mistake. This was a lifestyle. My entire marriage had been a sham. I wasn't her husband. I was her cover story. The stable, reliable fool who paid the mortgage and raised another man's child. How many, I heard myself ask. The question felt distant, as if someone else were speaking. Marie flinched. I don't know, Peter. A few. It didn't mean anything. It didn't mean anything. I slammed my hand on the table, the sound echoing like a gunshot. My daughter, the girl I have raised for 10 years, isn't mine, and you say it didn't mean anything. She times your daughter, she whispered, tears finally welling in her eyes. You're the only father she's ever known. Don't you use her to manipulate me, Costello, cut in his voice like ice. Not anymore. I was no longer in a conference room. I was at the bottom of a deep, dark ocean. The pressure was crushing me. My wife was a stranger. My daughter was a stranger's child. My life, every memory, every holiday, every family photo on the wall, it was all fake. A meticulously crafted stage play where I was the only one who didn't know his lines. I stood up my chair, scraping harshly against the floor. I looked at Marie, truly looked at her for the last time. I saw nothing. No love, no hate. Just an empty space where my wife used to be. I want you out of the house by the end of the week, I said to her, lawyer, not to her. I want full custody of Ben. She can have supervised visitation, that's it. Everything else you two can fight over the scraps. I walked out without looking back. That night, I stood in the doorway of Carrie's room. She was asleep, her breathing soft, and even her favorite stuffed bear tucked under her arm. Her face, so familiar and beloved, was now a painful mystery. I saw the ghost of some other man in the curve of her cheek, the shape of her nose. My heart didn't just break. It atomized. The pain was a physical thing, a jagged piece of metal lodged in my chest. I had lost my wife. I had lost my family. And now I had lost my daughter, who was sleeping 20 feet away from me. I still loved her. God help me, I loved her more than my own life. But she wasn't mine. Ben was asleep in the next room. My son. My real biological son. He was the only piece of this shattered life that was still true. I had to protect him. I had to build some kind of world for him out of this smoking crater. But how? How do you explain to a 6-year-old that mommy is gone? How do you explain to your daughter that the legal papers now call you nothing? I closed her door, the soft click echoing the final brutal end of everything I had ever believed in.
Story 6.
My dad was a phenomenal father. He was also a truly crappy husband. I know that's a hell of an opener, but there's no other way to say it. He was the guy who taught me how to throw a baseball, how to change a tire, and how to talk to girls without sounding like a complete moron. He was also the guy who cheated on my mother more times than I can count. You can't reconcile those two things. You just have to hold them both in your head at the same time and accept them as true. Growing up, our house was a stage, and my mother was the director. Everything was about appearances. The lawn had to be greener than the Hendersons. The Christmas lights had to be more elaborate than the Garcias. My sisters and I were props. She dressed up in matching outfits for family photos that screamed, "We are perfect, we are happy." It was all a lie. I remember one Saturday when I was about 15. Dad was trying to hang a new ceiling fan in the den. He slipped on the ladder, came down hard, and sliced his arm open on a metal bracket. It wasn't a gusher, but it was bleeding badly. He yelled my name and I came running. "Grab the first aid kit from the kitchen, buddy," he said through gritted teeth, pinching the wound shut. I ran into the kitchen. My mother was standing at the counter, calmly arranging a bouquet of lilies in a crystal vase. She didn't even look up. "Mom, Dad's hurt." "He's bleeding," I said, yanking the kit out from under the sink. "Is he getting it on the new rug?" she asked, her voice as cool and smooth as the marble countertop. "Tell him to use a towel." I just stared at her. Not an ounce of concern. Not a flicker of emotion. My father, the man whose credit card had paid for the rug, the vase, and the goddamn lilies, could have been bleeding out in the next room, and her only concern was the upholstery. That was their marriage in a nutshell. It wasn't a marriage, it was a business partnership. I didn't learn the real terms of their deal until last year when the doctors gave Dad the 6-month warning. Pancreatic cancer. A real son of a bitch. I was sitting by his hospice bed, the room smelling of antiseptic and fading hope. He'd lost so much weight, his clothes hanging off his frame like they belonged to a bigger, healthier man. But his eyes were still sharp, still had that glint of mischief. "You know why I never left your mother, David?" he asked out of the blue. His voice was a dry rasp. "I figured you stayed for us kids," I said. It was the story I'd always told myself. He gave a weak, rattling laugh. That was part of it. At first. But the main reason, blackmail. I felt my eyebrows shoot up. "What are you talking about?" "Early on, maybe 10 years in, I'd had enough," he said, adjusting his oxygen tube. I told her I was done. I was going to file for divorce. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "If you do that, I will tell the police, our friends, and our families that you beat me. I'll say you hit the kids, I will destroy you." The air in the room went cold. I couldn't speak. "I knew she'd do it," he continued, his gaze fixed on the ceiling. "She's a brilliant tactician, your mother. She knew nobody would question a crying woman. And I'd have lost everything. My job, my reputation. You kids. So we renegotiated the terms of our contract. Contract. She got the house, the lifestyle, the social standing. She got to be Mrs. Perfect Wife with the perfect family. In exchange, she looked the other way. She knew about my extracurricular activities. She didn't care as long as I was discreet and the checks cleared on the first of the month. She traded love for leverage. He finally looked at me, and I saw a lifetime of regret and resignation in his eyes. I was a coward, Dave. I should have fought her. But I was young and scared. So I paid her price. And I tried to make up for it by being the best damn dad I could be. He was. He never missed a game. He always had time for my stupid problems. He loved me and my sisters fiercely. A love that felt all the more real and desperate compared to the emotional vacuum of our mother. He wasn't a good man, not in the traditional sense. But he was a good father. The last 2 weeks were a blur of morphine drips and whispered conversations. During that time, he was always scribbling in a worn leather notebook. Sometimes, he'd let out a short, sharp laugh, then wince in pain. "What are you writing?" I asked him one afternoon. "My last will and testament," he coughed, a grim smile playing on his lips. "Not the legal one your mom's lawyers have that's sewn up tight. This is more of a spiritual declaration. My side of the story." The day before he died, he called me into his room. My sisters were in the hall crying quietly. He was lucid, frighteningly so. The cancer had eaten away his body, but it hadn't touched his mind. He gestured to a thick, sealed manila envelope on his bedside table. "That's for you," he rasped. I picked it up. It felt heavy, important. My name was written on the front in his shaky script. "It's my eulogy," he said, locking his eyes on mine. The force of his stare was immense. "And you are going to read it at my funeral." "Dad, I don't." "Dad, I don't." "Don't argue with me," he snapped, a flash of his old authority returning. "Not now. She's had the microphone for 30 years, David. She's controlled the entire narrative. This is my one chance to set the record straight. My one chance to have the last word." He started coughing, a deep, ragged sound that shook his entire body. I held a cup of water to his lips. "It's all in there," he whispered when he could speak again. "The good, the bad, and the ugly. It's funny. It's vulgar. It's profane. But it's the goddamn truth. And you are going to get up on that podium and you are going to read every single word of it." He grabbed my wrist with a surprising strength. His skin was paper thin, but his grip was iron. "Promise me, David, no edits. No chickening out because you're afraid of her reaction. You read it exactly as I wrote it. Promise me you'll honor my last wish." I looked at my father, the man who was both a hero and a villain in my life story. I saw the desperation in his sunken eyes, the plea for one final act of loyalty. It wasn't a request. It was a dying man's last command. "I promise, Dad," I said, my own voice cracking. A small, genuine smile touched his lips for the first time in weeks. He squeezed my hand, then let go, his energy spent. He closed his eyes and slipped into a sleep he wouldn't wake up from. And I was left standing there holding the bomb he had built, knowing he had just made me the one to light the fuse. The church was suffocating. It smelled of lilies, my mother's choice of course, and performative grief. I stood at the podium, the polished wood cool beneath my trembling hands. The manila envelope felt like it weighed 100 pounds. Out in the pews, I could see my mother dabbing at her dry eyes with a silk handkerchief, the perfect grieving widow. My sisters, Sarah and Chloe, sat beside her, their faces pale and tense. They knew what was coming. I'd shown them the eulogy the night before. I cleared my throat, the sound echoing in the cavernous silence. "My father wrote something," I began, my voice unsteady. "He asked me to read it. Unedited." I saw a flicker of confusion on my mother's face, quickly replaced by a placid, condescending smile. She probably thought it was going to be some sweet, sentimental deathbed letter. She had no idea. I broke the seal on the envelope and pulled out the folded pages, my father's familiar spiky handwriting staring up at me. I took a deep breath. Showtime. To anyone who's actually sad, I'm gone. Thanks for coming, I read. A few nervous titters rippled through the crowd. To anyone who's just here for the free sandwiches, they're in the back. Try the roast beef. My dad's father, Grandpa Joe, let out a loud snort. My mother shot him a look that could curdle milk. I kept reading. They say you should speak well of the dead. Lucky for you, I'm the one speaking and I can say whatever the hell I want. I was a good father. I was a terrible husband. If you're shocked by that, you haven't been paying attention for the last 30 years. The air in the church shifted. It became heavy charged. I didn't dare look at my mother. I just focused on the words. My marriage to the lovely woman in the front row, you know, the one who looks like she's auditioning for a tragedy, was a masterclass in transactional relationships. She provided the beautiful home and the picture-perfect family. I provided the money. All of it. A collective gasp went through my mother's side of the family. Her parents, my maternal grandparents, looked like they'd been slapped. Early on, I wanted out. She informed me that if I filed for divorce, she would fabricate a story of spousal and child abuse that would ruin my life. It was a brilliant, cold-blooded move. So I stayed. And in exchange for my financial loyalty, she granted me a certain freedom. As long as I was discreet and the mortgage was paid, she didn't care who I spent my nights with. Our marriage wasn't a sacred vow. It was a non-disclosure agreement with a hefty price tag. I paused to turn the page. The silence was absolute. Everyone was staring mouths agape. I risked a glance at my mother. Her face was a mask of white-hot fury. The grieving widow was gone. A killer had taken her place. Grandpa Joe was shaking with silent laughter, tears streaming down his face. He caught my eye and gave me a huge approving wink. I soldiered on my voice, gaining strength with every word of my father's truth. She traded love for leverage, and I was too much of a coward to call her bluff. That's on me. I failed as a husband, but I'd like to think I succeeded as a dad. To David, Sarah, and Chloe, you were the only real things in my life. The only part that wasn't a lie. I love you. I finished with his final line. So that's that. Don't cry for me. I'm finally out of the contract. Now somebody get Grandpa Joe a damn whiskey. I folded the papers, placed them back in the envelope, and walked down from the podium. I didn't look at anyone. The walk back to my seat felt a mile long. The service ended abruptly after that. No one else seemed to have anything to say. The fallout was immediate. As people were filing out, my mother cornered me near the vestibule. Her face was contorted with a rage I hadn't seen since Dad dented her Mercedes. You idiot, she hissed, her voice low and venomous. You stupid, selfish boy. You've humiliated me. You've ruined this entire family. I was honoring his last wish, I said, my voice flat. His last wish was to be a vindictive bastard, and you were his little puppet. Her parents flanked her, their faces grim with disapproval. Your father was a philandering pig, my maternal grandmother spat. And you were just like him. He was a good man, Grandpa Joe roared, stepping up to my side. He smelled faintly of the flask I knew he kept in his coat. He was a good man, trapped by a damn vampire, and David here just let a little sunlight into the crypt. My mother ignored him, her eyes boring into mine. This is it, David. This is the last time you will ever speak to me. And you can forget about your sisters. You will never see them again. I will make sure of it. It was her ultimate weapon. The one she'd held over my dad's head his entire life. The threat of taking his children. But she wasn't dealing with my dad anymore. No, you won't, I said calmly. Her eyes narrowed. Just watch me. Right on cue, Sarah and Chloe came and stood beside me. Sarah, 21, and legally her own woman, crossed her arms and stared our mother down. Chloe, a week away from her 18th birthday, looped her arm through mine. That's not going to work anymore, Mom, Sarah said, her voice steady and cold. You don't control us. Chloe leaves for Stanford in August, I added. And I'll be helping her move in. You don't have any leverage. The contract is void. I used Dad's word. Asterisk. Contract. Asterisk. I saw it land. For the first time in my life, I saw my mother look completely and utterly defeated. Her power, the carefully constructed illusion she had maintained for 3 decades, had evaporated in the space of 10 minutes. All she had left was public shame and 3 children who now saw her for exactly what she was. She stared at the 3 of us, a united front she never anticipated. Her mouth opened, then closed. There were no more threats to make. No more cards to play. She turned without another word, her parents trailing behind her like defeated sycophants, and swept out of the church. We stood there for a moment, in the sudden quiet, the 3 of us. The bomb had gone off. The smoke was clearing. Grandpa Joe clapped me hard on the shoulder. Your father would be so damn proud of you, kid, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I nodded, unable to speak. I looked at the faces of my sisters, and I knew I had done the right thing for them for my dad. But as the adrenaline began to fade, a cold, heavy feeling settled in my gut. I had honored my father. I had set his truth free. But I had also detonated our family, leaving nothing but rubble and scorched earth. And I was the one left standing in the wreckage, wondering if the cost of one man's final word was worth a lifetime of war.
Story 7.
My house has always been the hub. The place where scraped knees were patched, where the smell of pot roast hung in the air on Sundays, where the door was never locked. When my daughter Leah found herself a single mom, it wasn't even a question. She and my grandson Travis moved into the upstairs suite. Our home became a 3-person, 2-generation whirlwind of laughter, therapy, appointments, and a love so fierce it felt like its own heat source. Travis is the center of our universe. He's 7 with a mind that sees the world in brilliant geometric patterns, and a heart that feels everything like a tidal wave. He's autistic. For us, that's not a label. It's just the operating system he runs on. We learned his language, his rhythms. We know that the hum of the refrigerator is soothing, but the sudden roar of the vacuum is a physical assault. We know that scratchy tags are torture, and that the color yellow can bring him a joy so pure it's blinding. Our little ecosystem worked. It was loud and sometimes chaotic, but it was happy. Then there was Kathy. My son Daniel married her 3 years ago. From the beginning, she held herself apart, a cool island in our warm sea. She'd watch our easy affection with a look I couldn't quite decipher. Part confusion, part disdain. It was Travis, though, who seemed to be the focal point of her chill. I just think it's a little ridiculous, she said to me once, watching Leah cut the tags out of a new shirt for Travis. He has to learn to deal with the real world sometime. This is his real world, Kathy, I'd said, my voice tighter than I intended. And in his world, that tag feels like fire ants on his skin. It's not a choice. She just sipped her wine and gave a delicate little shrug, as if I'd just tried to explain a silly foreign custom to her. Her real issue, I came to realize, was a festering jealousy aimed at Leah. Leah had the first grandchild, and in Kathy's eyes, that was a title she had stolen. It didn't matter that Leah's circumstances were heartbreakingly difficult. All Kathy saw was that my attention, my time, my home was wrapped up in Leah and her son. Must be nice to have a live-in 24/7 babysitter she'd snipe at Leah during family dinners. a saccharine smile plastered on her face. Daniel and I have to actually pay times for help. Daniel would just squeeze her shoulder. Kathy, honey, come on. He was always running interference, always smoothing things over, offering weak excuses for her bitterness. She's just stressed with work, he'd tell me later in a hushed phone call. But I knew what I saw. It wasn't stress. It was resentment, hard and ugly. Travis, with his profound needs, monopolized the family's energy. When he was calm and happy, we were all calm and happy. When he was overwhelmed, the mission was to bring him back to a safe place. To Kathy, this wasn't a family caring for one of its own. It was a performance. Travis was the star, and she and Daniel were relegated to being ignored audience members. She couldn't stand it. This year, the annual Christmas Eve party felt different. The tension was a low hum beneath the carols and the clinking glasses. I'd made all the usual preparations, lights dimmed to a gentle glow, no flashing decorations, a quiet room set aside for Travis if he needed a break. I'd even sent out a group text. Asterisk. A quick reminder for the Yankee swap. Please, nothing with loud, sudden noises or music. Let's keep it low-key for Trav this year. Thanks everyone, asterisk. Everyone responded with thumbs-up emojis and loving confirmations. Everyone, except Kathy. The party was in full swing. My husband was passing around eggnog, and Leah was sitting on the floor with Travis, helping him line up his new dinosaur figures in perfect prehistoric order. He was happy. His low, contented humming was the best Christmas music I could ask for. Daniel and Kathy arrived late. She swept in wearing a dress that was too formal and a perfume that was too strong. Her eyes immediately scanning the room like a predator. The Yankee swap started after dessert. We all gathered in the living room, drawing numbers from a felt Santa hat. My sister Carol drew number 1. She picked a brightly wrapped boxy gift from the pile. She tore it open, and her face fell. It was a foot-tall plastic singing Santa Claus. The kind with dead painted-on eyes that gyrates its hips, while blasting a tinny version of Jingle Bell Rock. The air went still. Everyone looked from the Santa to Travis. Oh God, Carol whispered quickly, trying to shove it back in the box. I am so sorry, Leah. I had no idea. The gift was from a cousin who must have missed my text. It's okay, Carol. It's fine, Leah said, already rubbing Travis's back, though he hadn't noticed yet. Just don't press the button. Please. My lips are sealed, Carol promised, placing the box on the floor beside her chair far out of reach. The game continued. A bottle of wine was stolen. A gag gift of a Nicolas Cage pillowcase got a big laugh. The tension eased. Travis was still absorbed in his dinosaurs. I started to relax. Then it was Kathy's turn. She was holding a perfectly nice gift, a cashmere scarf someone had opened. But she wasn't looking at it. Her eyes were locked on the box by Carol's feet. A slow, deliberate smile spread across her face. She said, tapping a perfectly manicured nail against her chin. I think I'm going to steal. Daniel chuckled nervously beside her. Kath, you have a great scarf. Just keep the scarf. She ignored him. She stood up, her movements theatrically slow, and walked over to my sister. I'll be taking Santa Carol. Kathy, no, I said, my voice sharp. Don't be ridiculous. You know Travis can't handle that. She turned her head to look at me, her smile widening into a smirk. Aria, it's a game. It's for fun. Don't be such a killjoy. She took the box from Carol, who looked horrified. But she didn't go back to her seat. Instead, she walked across the room and deliberately, pointedly, sat down on the floor right next to my grandson. Leah stiffened. Kathy, what are you doing? Travis looked up from his dinosaurs, his brow furrowed, sensing the sudden shift in the room's energy. He looked at the box in Kathy's hands, then at her smiling face. Kathy just laughed, a high, brittle sound. Oh, relax, everyone. "It's just a toy." And then while looking directly at me, she turned the box over, slid the plastic Santa from its cardboard prison, and jammed her thumb down on the red play button on its base. The first tinny, horrifyingly loud bars of Jingle Bell Rock blared from the tiny speaker. The Santa's hips began their jerky robotic thrusting. Travis's reaction was instantaneous and violent. It wasn't a cry, it was a scream of pure animal terror. He threw himself backward, scrambling away from the noise, his hands flying up to clamp over his ears. His body went rigid, and a keening wail tore from his throat. A sound of absolute agony. The music kept playing. The Santa kept dancing. And through it all, Kathy just sat there laughing. She was actually laughing. The whole world narrowed to that sound, my grandson's terrified screams, the grating electronic music, and my son's wife's cruel, triumphant laughter. Something hot and dark ignited in my chest, a fury so profound it stole my breath. In that moment, the carefully constructed piece of my family didn't just crack. It detonated. I lunged forward, not even thinking. I snatched the gyrating plastic horror from her hands and slammed my thumb down on the off switch. The sudden deafening silence was broken only by my grandson's wrenching sobs. Leah had him wrapped in her arms, rocking him, whispering into his hair, but he was unreachable, lost in the terror. My husband was already on his feet, his face a thundercloud. "Get out." But I wasn't done. I turned on Kathy, the plastic Santa still clutched in my hand like a weapon. "What is wrong with you?" I hissed, my voice shaking with a rage I had never felt before. Kathy scrambled to her feet, her face flushed. "Oh my God, it was a joke. You people are so dramatic." A joke. My sister Carol was standing now, her own face pale with shock. "You saw him, Kathy. You heard us. You did that on purpose." "He needs to learn to cope," Kathy shrieked, her voice cracking. The world doesn't revolve around Travis and his ridiculous list of made-up triggers. That was it. Made up. I took a step closer to her, my voice dropping to a dangerous low. "You think his pain is made up for your entertainment?" Daniel finally moved, stepping between us and putting a hand on his wife's arm. "Okay, let's just calm down. Kathy, honey, you shouldn't have done that." "Don't you dare honey me, Daniel," she spat, yanking her arm away. She pointed a trembling manicured finger at Leah, who was now trying to lead a still sobbing Travis out of the room. This is what I'm talking about. The show is over and the star is making his grand exit. Everything always has to stop for him. "He is a child, Kathy," I roared, the sound shocking even myself. "My grandchild, and you just tortured him for fun." Her mask of composure finally shattered, revealing the ugly, festering resentment beneath. Fun. You want to know what's fun? Watching my husband and I get treated like second-class citizens in his family because Leah had to go and have the precious first grandchild. He soaks up all the attention, all the time, all the money. You act like he's a little prince. And we're just nothing. I'm sick of it. The confession hung in the air, grotesque and raw. She wasn't just cruel. She was proud of it. My husband stepped forward. His voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of finality. "Daniel, get her out of my house. Now." Daniel looked from his wife's contorted face to my own, his expression a pathetic mix of panic and shame. He grabbed Kathy's elbow. "We're leaving." "Good," she yelled as he dragged her toward the door. "This family is a joke." They stormed out, slamming the door behind them, leaving a wake of stunned silence and my grandson's lingering, heartbroken sobs. The house cleared out quickly after that. My family offered hushed, horrified apologies and fierce hugs before slipping out into the cold night. The party was over. Christmas was over. It took Leah nearly 2 hours to calm Travis down. We sat with him in his room with his weighted blanket and the soft glow of his Galaxy projector until his ragged breaths finally evened out into the rhythm of sleep. I watched my daughter, her face etched with a pain and exhaustion that cut me to the bone. She didn't have to say a word. We both knew a line had been crossed that we could never uncross. The next day, Daniel called. My husband answered and put it on speaker. Mom, Dad, Look, I'm so sorry about last night, he began, his voice thick with practiced regret. Kathy feels terrible. She had too much wine, she was stressed from work, she didn't mean for it to go that far. I waited. The silence stretched. And I finally asked. And she's really sorry, he finished lamely. Then why isn't she times on the phone, Daniel? I asked. My voice was flat, devoid of emotion. He stammered. Well, she's just really upset. She feels like everyone ganged up on her. Did she feel ganged up on when she was laughing at a terrified 7-year-old? I shot back. I want to hear from her. She needs to apologize to me, and more importantly, she needs to apologize to Leah. Right, of course, he said quickly. I'll talk to her. He never called back. A week passed. Then another. New Year's came and went in a quiet, somber fog. We received a text from Daniel Times. Happy New Year. Hope you guys are well. Asterisk, it was a coward's olive branch, an attempt to sweep the shrapnel under the rug and pretend the explosion never happened. I didn't reply. Finally, after 3 weeks of suffocating silence, my husband and I sat at the kitchen table. We had talked it through a dozen times, looking at it from every angle, but we always landed in the same place. This wasn't about a simple family squabble. This was about protecting a vulnerable child from a predator. She can't come back here, my husband said, his voice firm. Not like this. I nodded, a cold stone of grief and certainty settling in my stomach. I picked up my phone and called Daniel. He answered on the second ring, his voice wary. Daniel, I said, no preamble. Your father and I have made a decision. Kathy is no longer welcome in our home. I heard his sharp intake of breath. Mom, what? You can't be serious. You're banning her. It was one mistake. It was not a mistake, I said, my voice as steady as steel. It was a choice. A deliberate, cruel choice. She hurt Travis Daniel. She enjoyed it. Until she is willing to come here, look me and her sister-in-law in the eye, and give a sincere, genuine apology for her behavior, she cannot be in this house. She cannot be around your nephew. This is not negotiable. This is insane, he sputtered. You're punishing us. You're choosing them over me. The accusation hit its mark, and for a second my resolve wavered. My son. My little boy. But then I pictured Travis's face contorted in terror, and the steel returned. I am not choosing anyone over you, Daniel. I am choosing to protect a child who cannot protect himself. That is my job. As his grandmother, and frankly, it should be your job as his uncle. The door is open for you always. For her, there are conditions. He said something ugly then about me being controlling, about Leah having me wrapped around her little finger. I didn't argue. I just listened until he was done. I love you, Daniel, I said softly when he finally ran out of steam. But the boundary stands. I hung up. That was 6 months ago. We didn't see them for Easter. They missed Travis's 8th birthday. I get curated updates from my sister. Kathy has been telling anyone who will listen that we are unstable, that we've cut them out over a silly misunderstanding about a Christmas toy. She has painted herself as the victim, and Daniel is her loyal, wronged husband. It has broken my heart. There is a hole in our family now, a gaping wound where my son and his wife used to be. Sometimes at night I lie awake and grieve for the relationship I've lost. But then the sun comes up and I hear Travis downstairs humming happily as he arranges his dinosaurs in a perfect sun-drenched line on the living room rug. The sound of his peace is the sound of my certainty. I made a choice. And every single day I am reminded that it was the right one.
Story 8.
I never liked weddings. Stale cake, terrible DJs, and a room full of relatives asking why I'm not married yet. The only way I usually survive these things is with a discreet vape pen and a couple of edibles. But Francesca, my girlfriend of 2 years, had other plans for my cousin David's big day. Just drink with me, Aaron, she pleaded, sliding a whiskey ginger into my hand. Just for tonight. Don't be antisocial. Francesca was beautiful electric. When she looked at you with those wide, dark eyes, it was hard to say no. So I drank. And then I drank some more. She was the life of the party, pulling me onto the dance floor, laughing, as I stumbled through a two-step. For a few hours, I forgot I hated weddings. I was just a guy in a rented suit, drunk and in love. Then Sean showed up. My cousin Sean. The family's golden boy. He wasn't the groom, but you wouldn't know it. He walked into the reception like he owned the place tailored suit. Clinging to his gem-sculpted frame, a smug grin plastered on his face. He was a wealth management cliché who called everyone buddy and had a handshake that was more of a power struggle. Aaron, buddy, looking sharp, he said, slapping my shoulder a little too hard. His eyes immediately slid past me to Francesca. And you must be Francesca? I've heard things. He gave her a slow, deliberate once-over. All good, I hope, Francesca said, her voice dropping an octave. She practically purred. I felt a familiar knot of resentment tighten in my gut. I hated the way he looked at her. I hated the way she looked back. The night wore on. The whiskey turned the lights into blurry streaks, and the music into a dull thud. At some point, I lost track of Francesca. I figured she was in the bathroom. 10 minutes turned into 20. I started to get that low-level drunk anxiety. I went looking for her. I checked the patio, the lobby, our hotel room. Nothing. On my way back to the reception hall, I heard loud, obnoxious laughter coming from a side conference room the hotel used for storage. I recognized Sean's booming laugh immediately. I pushed the door open. The room was dark, lit only by the faint glow of a phone flashlight on a small table. Around it stood Sean and two of his smarmy friends. And Francesca. She was bent over the table, a rolled-up bill in her hand, snorting a line of white powder. She looked up, her eyes wide and pupils blown. A dusting of white clung to her nostril. Sean just grinned. Aaron, buddy, come on in. The water's fine. I felt the whiskey sour in my stomach. Fran. What the hell are you doing? She stood up straight, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. The defiant look she gave me was like a slap in the face. What does it look like I'm having a good time? You should try it. Loosen up. With him, I gestured at Sean, who was now leaning against a stack of chairs, arms crossed, looking thoroughly amused. You know how I feel about him. And since when do you do coke? Oh my God, don't be so dramatic, she hissed, grabbing my arm and pulling me out into the hallway. Her grip was surprisingly strong. It's a wedding. It's a party. It's just a bit of fun. Fun, that's my scumbag cousin, Fran. He's not that bad, she said, not meeting my eyes. He was just being nice. The argument went nowhere. She accused me of being a controlling stoner. I accused her of being reckless. The whole time, I could feel Sean's presence through the door, probably listening, that smug bastard. The fight ended as it always did, with her crying and me apologizing for getting angry. Back in our hotel room, we had angry, disconnected sex. It felt less like making love and more like staking a claim. I fell asleep, feeling hollowed out, the smell of cheap whiskey and her perfume filling my head. I woke up to an empty bed. The sun was streaming through a gap in the curtains and my head was pounding like a drum solo. Francesca was gone. Her dress was slung over a chair, but her purse and phone were missing. I figured she'd gone to get coffee. I pulled on a pair of jeans and a t-shirt and stumbled downstairs to the hotel's breakfast buffet. As I was pouring a cup of much-needed coffee, I heard them. Sean's friends. They were sitting at a table a few feet away, nursing hangovers and laughing. "Dude, I can't believe he actually did it," one of them said, his voice a gravelly whisper. "Sean's a predator, man," the other one chuckled. "Total savage. Didn't even wait a full night." My hands started to shake. I kept my back to them, pretending to be interested in the assortment of stale pastries. Sleeping with his cousin's girlfriend at a family wedding, that's a new level of degenerate. The coffee cup slipped from my fingers, shattering on the tile floor. Hot liquid splashed across my sneakers. They turned to look. I just stared back my face, a blank mask. The one who spoke, a lanky guy with a weak chin, looked away immediately. I walked over to their table. My voice was dangerously quiet. "What room?" The lanky one wouldn't look at me. "Man, I don't know what you're talking about." I grabbed the front of his shirt, bunching the fabric in my fist. "Don't lie to me." "What room?" His eyes widened in fear. He glanced at his friend, who just shook his head, wanting no part of it. "Room 312, he stammered. "Look, man, I'm sorry." I let him go and walked away without another word. The walk to the elevator, the ride up to the third floor, the long walk down the hallway, it all felt like a dream. Or a nightmare. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic trapped bird. Room 312. The door wasn't fully latched. It was cracked open just enough for me to hear a soft murmur of voices inside. I didn't knock. I pushed it open. The scene burned itself onto my brain. The tangled white sheets. Sean naked from the waist up, propped on one elbow. And Francesca, her back to me, her dark hair splayed across the pillow, pulling the sheet up to cover herself as she turned. The look on her face wasn't guilt. It wasn't shame. It was annoyance. She looked at me like I was an inconvenience, like I had just interrupted her morning coffee. Sean, on the other hand, just smiled. That same smug, arrogant grin from the night before. He looked me right in the eye. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I didn't do anything. A wave of pure, cold humiliation washed over me, so total and absolute that it felt like drowning. I just stood there for a second, a ghost in the doorway of my own ruined life. Then I turned around and walked away. Back in my room, I packed my bag. My hands moved on autopilot, throwing clothes into the suitcase. Then I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall. My phone started vibrating on the nightstand. A text from Francesca times Aaron, we need to talk. Asterisk. Another times. It's not what it looks like. Asterisk. Another times. Please just answer me. Asterisk. Then a call. Her picture popped up on the screen, a photo I took of her smiling on a beach last summer. I ignored it. It rang and rang, then went to voicemail. A minute later, a text from my Aunt Carol times, heard you had a rough night. Sean says, you two have an arrangement, a little weird, but whatever makes you kids happy, asterisk. My stomach twisted. An arrangement? Then another text, this one from a different cousin, Mark times, dude, WTF, everyone's calling you a cuck. You gotta get out of here. Asterisk. The phone buzzed again. A call. Francesca. Her smiling face filled the screen, an obscene parody of a life that no longer existed. The buzzing was the only sound in the room, a relentless, hateful noise drilling directly into my skull. I picked up my suitcase, walked out of the room, and left the key on the front desk without a word. My phone didn't stop buzzing the entire drive home. I just turned up the music until I couldn't hear it anymore. Back in my apartment, I threw the phone on the couch and let the battery die. For 3 days, I lived in silence. I didn't go to work. I didn't answer the door. I just sat in the dark, the image of that hotel room playing on a loop in my head. On the fourth day, a call came through on my laptop from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me click accept. "Aaron," a woman's voice asked. It was hesitant, familiar. "Who is this?" "It's Chloe, Francesca's sister." I almost hung up. "What do you want?" I just wanted to say I'm sorry," she said, her voice cracking. She told me what happened. What she did. There was a long pause. "She's done this before, Aaron." The words hung in the air. "What?" "With the drugs," Chloe said, the words tumbling out in a rush. "She gets in deep, racks up a debt with some scumbag dealer, and then she finds a way to pay it off. Sean wasn't the first guy with a nice watch and a bag of coke. He was just the first one you caught her with. The humiliation I felt before was nothing compared to this. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was a transaction. I was the stable, boring guy who paid the rent while she chased a different kind of high. Sean was just a convenience. A line of credit? "I'm so sorry, Aaron," Chloe whispered. "You're a good guy. You didn't deserve any of this." I didn't know what to say. I just closed the laptop. That conversation severed the last thread of attachment I had. It wasn't about love or a mistake. It was just a pathetic, dirty secret. An hour later, I plugged my phone in. It lit up with a barrage of notifications. Dozens of missed calls from her. Hundreds of texts. They started apologetic, then turned desperate, then angry. The last one had come through just minutes before. Asterisk, "I know you talked to Chloe. You think you know everything, fucking coward. Call me." Asterisk. So I did. She picked up on the first ring. Finally, she spat. "Took you long enough to grow a pair?" "Was it for the coke, Fran?" I asked, my voice flat, devoid of any emotion. "Was that all it was?" There was a beat of silence. "Don't be so naive," she sneered. "The coke was just a perk. Sean wanted me. He's a man who takes what he wants." It was exciting. "Exciting," I repeated numbly. "Yes, exciting. You want to know the truth, Aaron? I would have done it anyway, even without the debt. Do you have any idea how boring it is sleeping with you? You lie there like a dead fish." At least with Sean, I felt something. Every word was a calculated blow, designed to inflict maximum damage. The final desperate act of a cornered animal. "He told everyone we had an open relationship," I said. She laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "And you're surprised. He owns you now. Everyone knows. You're just the guy who paid my rent. You're a cuckold Aaron." That was it. The word hung in the air between us, a final poison dart. I didn't say goodbye. I just hung up, opened my contacts, and blocked her number. Then I went through my family. Aunt Carol. Blocked. My uncle who'd sent a smirking emoji. Blocked. Cousin after cousin, blocked. I scrubbed them from my life like a stain. The next morning I went to a clinic. The wait was sterile and silent, a room full of people staring at their phones, all of us there for our own quiet disasters. The doctor was professional, non-judgmental. He took my blood. He told me it would be a week. That week was the longest of my life. The results came back in an email. Negative. All of it. I didn't feel happy. I just felt empty. Relieved of a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying. The following Saturday, I was in the express lane at the grocery store, holding a basket with a frozen pizza and a 6-pack of beer when I saw him. Sean. He was at the self-checkout buying a bottle of wine and a pack of condoms, laughing with one of the same friends who'd been at the hotel breakfast bar. He saw me. His smile widened. That same smug, arrogant, punchable smile. "Aaron, buddy," he called out like we were old friends. "No hard feelings, right? It's a dog-eat-dog world." Something inside me snapped. The cold humiliation that had been my constant companion for 2 weeks flash boiled into pure white-hot rage. I dropped my basket. I walked the 10 feet that separated us. I didn't say a word. My first punch caught him square on the nose. I felt the cartilage crunch against my knuckles. Blood exploded from his nostrils. He staggered back, his eyes wide with shock. His friend just stood there frozen. Before Sean could recover, I grabbed the front of his expensive polo shirt and slammed a right hook into his jaw. There was a sickening crack, and I saw a tooth fly out of his mouth, skittering across the linoleum floor. He crumpled, falling into a display of potato chips, and didn't get up. I stood over him, my chest heaving, my hand throbbing. The store went dead silent. His friend stared at me, then at Sean, bleeding on the floor, and then back at me. He didn't move to help. He just gave me a slow, almost imperceptible nod. I turned and walked out of the store, leaving my pizza and beer behind. The police never came. A few days later, I heard from my cousin Mark, one of the few I didn't block, that Sean wasn't pressing charges. His own friends had told him he'd be laughed out of the courtroom. They told him he got exactly what he deserved. In their eyes, I hadn't committed a crime. I'd settled a score. That was the last I ever heard of Sean or Francesca. I quit my dead-end job. I threw out my bong. I got a therapist. I started going to the gym every day, channeling the rage into iron and sweat. It was a long road. Some days were better than others. Some nights, I still woke up with the image of that hotel room burned into my mind. But I was healing. Mark told me some of the younger cousins were giving their parents hell, calling them out for laughing at me, shaming them for taking Sean's side. It was a small thing, but it was something. It was a sign that the poison hadn't infected everyone. It was a start.
Story 9.
The wedding is my gift to you. The words felt good coming out of my mouth. Big brotherly generous. My sister Beth was sitting across from me at a coffee shop, her new engagement ring catching the light every time she gestured, which was a lot. At 32, she'd finally found her guy, and I was genuinely happy for her. I'll plan the whole thing start to finish, I continued. No fee. My time, my connections, my expertise, it's all yours. I'm a wedding planner. At 25, I'm good at it too. I built a solid business from the ground up, and my calendar is a nightmare of color-coded bookings. Beth's October wedding date fell squarely in my busiest, most lucrative season. Gifting her my services meant turning down at least 2, maybe 3 full coordination packages. It was a 5-figure gift, easy. Oh my God, Ash, really? She clapped her hands together. That's amazing. It'll save us so much money. The first red flag. She heard free, not gift. But I let it slide. I was happy for her. For the first month, things were fine. We toured venues. I called in a massive favor and got her a 20% discount on a gorgeous historical estate she loved. That alone saved her $5,000. We talked color palettes and catering. It was collaborative. It was fun. Then the shift happened. A switch flipped, and my sweet, reasonable sister was replaced by a creature of pure, unfiltered stress, Bridezilla Beth. It started with the invitations. I'd curated a dozen mock-ups from a designer I work with, all based on the rustic elegance theme she'd described. I don't know, she said, frowning at the proofs I'd laid out on her dining table. The font on this one feels angry. Angry. And this one, she said, pointing to another, the paper is too papery. We went back and forth for 3 weeks. Every day, a new text. Asterisk. What about sage green instead of olive times? A day later times. Actually, olive was better. Let's go back. Asterisk. Then times. Can we see a version where the font is cursive but not TOO cursive? Times. I spent hours on the phone with the designer, apologizing, cajoling, and eating the cost of the extra revisions myself. The real chaos started with the photographer. I pulled my biggest string. I got her Chloe Vaughn. Chloe usually has a 2-year waiting list and a price tag that could buy a decent sedan. I got Beth a friends and family rate that was practically theft, on the condition that Beth be low maintenance and organized. All she needs from you is the final timeline and a shot list by the 1st of the month. I explained to Beth over the phone. That's it. Super simple. The 1st of the month came and went. I got a call from Chloe a week later. Her tone was ice. Asher, I've emailed your sister 3 times. I've texted twice. If I don't get that timeline by tomorrow, I'm pulling out. I don't care what discount I gave you. This is unprofessional. My stomach dropped. I hung up and immediately called Beth. No answer. I called her fiancé, Mark. Oh yeah, he said casually. She saw the emails. She said she was just super busy this week. Super busy doing what, pinning 400 pictures of identical table centerpieces. I felt a hot flash of anger. I smoothed things over with Chloe, promising her she'd have the list by morning. Then I spent the next 4 hours basically creating the shot list myself, based on our previous conversations. Typing up a minute-by-minute schedule of the entire wedding day and emailing it to Beth with the subject line, "Copy and day." Paste this and send it to Chloe. Now. She replied an hour later. Asterisk. THEX, you're a lifesaver, asterisk. I wasn't a lifesaver. I was her unpaid assistant cleaning up messes she shouldn't have been making. I was fielding panicked calls from the caterer because Beth decided she wanted to change from a plated dinner to food trucks 6 weeks before the wedding. I was turning down a potential 6-figure destination wedding in Cabo because the consultation call conflicted with Beth's cake-tasting emergency. My own business was suffering, my paying clients were getting the B-team version of me, and my stress levels were through the roof. But I kept telling myself times, she's your sister. It's your gift. Asterisk. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. I was on site for another wedding, juggling a florist who'd brought peonies instead of gardenias, and a groomsman who'd lost the rings. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was Beth. Her tone was bubbly, a complete 180 from the tear-filled call I'd gotten an hour earlier about the potential for rain. Hey Ash, quick question, she chirped. Mark and I are finalizing the registry. We just wanted to give you first dibs on one of the big ticket items before we send the link out to everyone else. I stopped in the middle of the hallway, the frantic energy of the wedding around me fading to a dull hum. I must have misheard her. What are you talking about? I asked, my voice flat. The registry, our gift registry. There's a really cool espresso machine or the honeymoon fund. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice even. Beth. My gift is planning the wedding, the entire wedding. For free. She laughed. It was a light, dismissive little sound that made the hairs on my arms stand up. Oh, that's sweet, Ash, she said, her voice dripping with condescension. But that's just you, doing your job. That's not really a times gift, asterisk. The world tilted. Not a gift, Beth. My fee for a wedding this size is $20,000. I've gotten you discounts that have saved you another $10,000. That's a $30,000 gift. Well, you're not actually paying times for anything, are you? She retorted, her voice hardening. It's not like you wrote a check for the venue. That just feels... it just feels a little cheap for my own brother not to get us a real present. Cheap. The word echoed in the silent hallway. All the sleepless nights, the lost income, the frantic damage control, all of it erased and branded as cheap. I have to go, I said, my jaw so tight I could barely speak. I hung up before she could reply. I stood there for a full minute, phone in my hand, my mind a blank wall of white-hot rage. Then my phone buzzed again. A text. It was from our mom. Asterisk. Asher, Beth just called me very upset. What is this I hear about you refusing to buy her a wedding gift? Asterisk. Another buzz. A group chat with my aunts and uncles. My Uncle Mike times heard you're stiffing your sister on a gift. Not a good look, kid. Asterisk. My phone kept buzzing, one message after another, a tidal wave of judgment from people who had no idea what I'd been doing for the last 6 months. She hadn't just insulted me. She'd gone on the offensive. She'd twisted the story and painted me as the villain to our entire family in under 10 minutes. My jaw tightened. She hadn't just dismissed me. She'd declared war. Okay, she wanted war. I'd give her a spreadsheet. I drove home from the wedding venue on autopilot, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. The buzz of my phone was a constant mocking vibration in my pocket. I ignored it. Back in my apartment, I threw my keys on the counter, bypassed the fridge, and went straight to my laptop. My hands were shaking not with anger anymore, but with a cold, focused fury. I opened a blank document. Title Times, Beth and Mark's Wedding, Gift Ledger, and Cost Savings Analysis. Asterisk. For the next 2 hours, I didn't just work. I performed a forensic accounting of my own misery. Every email. Every phone call. Every hour I'd spent placating a vendor or calming Beth down from a non-existent crisis. It all went on to the list. Asterisk, asterisk. Initial consultation and venue scouting. 8 hours at $250. HR, $2. 000. Asterisk. 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 Vendor negotiation and booking. 15 hours at $250. HR. $3. 750. Asterisk. 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 Venue discount, secured exclusive, partner rate, -$5, 120, asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk. Invitation design rework, 4 revisions, 6 hours, $1, 500. Absorbed cost asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk. Photographer crisis management, Chloe Vaughn, 4 hours. Value priceless. But let's call it $1. 000. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Timeline and shot list. Creation. Last minute, 4 hours at $250. HR, $1, 000. Asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk. Food truck logistics post-contract menu. Change 5 hours at $250. HR $1, $250. Asterisk. The list went on. Page after page. I tracked the hours, the negotiated savings, the after-hours calls. At the bottom of page 3, I put my standard full-service wedding coordination fee. It was the number I quoted clients who wanted the moon, the stars, and a dove released synchronized to a string quartet. Then I added it all up. The next morning, I texted her. Asterisk. We need to talk. My place. 10 a.m. Come alone. Asterisk. She arrived looking defensive, clutching her purse like a shield. Look, Ash, Mom said you're upset, but I really think you're overreacting. Sit down, I said, pointing to the chair opposite me at my dining table. The only thing on the table was my laptop and a freshly printed 3-page document face down. She sat her jaw tight. This is ridiculous. You're being so dramatic. I didn't say a word. I just flipped the document over and pushed it across the table to her. She picked it up, her brow furrowed in confusion. I watched her eyes scan the first page. I saw them widen slightly at the line item for the venue discount. I saw a flicker of something, annoyance, disbelief, as she read through the hours I'd logged. She scoffed when she got to the part about photographer crisis management. "What is this?" she finally asked, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Are you billing me?" "No," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "I'm showing you my gift. The one you called cheap. You seem to have misplaced the receipt, so I printed you a new one." "This is insane, Asher. You're trying to make me feel bad. You've been keeping a tally just to throw it in my face." "I keep a tally for all my clients, Beth. It's how I run my business. The only difference is they pay me. You turned our family against me." I leaned forward. "You cost me a 6-figure contract in Cabo. You nearly torpedoed my relationship with the best photographer in the city. You have been my single most demanding, least appreciative client of the entire year. And you did it all for free." She dropped the papers on the table like they were hot. "That's not fair. I'm your sister." "Exactly, which is why I did all of this in the first place." My voice finally rose the frustration of months boiling over. "Look at the last page, Beth. Look at the bottom line." Her eyes reluctantly dropped back to the document. She flipped to the last page. I had totaled everything: my standard fee, the man hours, billed at my professional rate, the hard dollar discounts I had secured for her. I watched her face as the number registered. It was a visceral reaction. The color drained from her cheeks, her mouth opened slightly. She looked from the paper to me, then back to the paper, as if the ink might have rearranged itself. $37,870, she whispered. The number hung in the air between us, heavy and obscene. "That's the value of my gift," I said, my voice softening just a little. "That's the check I didn't ask you to write. It's more than your espresso machine. It's more than your entire honeymoon fund. It is by a massive margin the single most expensive and valuable gift you are going to receive." Silence. For the first time in months, my sister was utterly silent. She stared at the paper, tracing a line item with her finger. It was the invitation design rework. The line that ended with absorbed cost. A tear slid down her cheek, then another. "The font," she mumbled. "The angry font." "Yeah," I said. "The font." "Oh God," she said, burying her face in her hands. Her shoulders started to shake. "Ash, I'm so sorry. I didn't see it. I just saw my brother. And I thought, I don't know what I thought. I didn't think about what it was, times costing times you." She looked up, her eyes red and puffy. "I was an absolute monster. A bridezilla. I know I was. And then to say that to you? To call you cheap?" She shook her head, a fresh wave of tears coming. "It was a horrible thing to say. I'm so sorry. It was the apology I needed to hear. The genuine ego-shattering kind." I took a deep breath. "Okay. Apology accepted." "How do I fix this?" she asked, her voice thick. "With the family. I was just so angry and I reacted and I made you sound awful." "You fix it by telling them the truth," I said, sliding my phone across the table. "Right now, in the group chat." She picked it up without hesitation. Her thumbs flew across the screen. A few moments later, my phone buzzed with a notification from the family group chat. *Beth. Hey everyone. I need to clear something up and offer my brother a huge public apology. I completely misunderstood the massive scope and value of the wedding planning he's gifting us. He has poured hundreds of hours and saved us tens of thousands of dollars. It's an incredibly generous gift, and I was a complete jerk about it. Ash, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. We are so lucky to have you. Asterisk. My phone immediately started buzzing with replies. Asterisk. Mom, oh honey. That's so good of you to say. Asterisk. Asterisk. Uncle Mike, my mistake, Asher. Sounds like you're the man. Asterisk. Beth pushed my phone back to me, her expression a mix of shame and relief. Is that okay? It's a start, I said. Peace was restored. The wedding planning continued, but with a new dynamic. Bridezilla Beth was gone, replaced by my actual sister. She was decisive, appreciative, and a goddamn delight to work with. The wedding itself went off without a hitch. It was beautiful. On the day, as she was about to walk down the aisle, I handed her a small flat box wrapped in silver paper. She looked at me confused. What's this? Your wedding gift, I said with a slight smile. She opened it. Inside was a simple, elegant silver frame. And in the frame was a single piece of paper, the invoice. Across the bottom I had taken a thick black marker and written in big, bold letters, "Paid in full." She looked at it, then at me, and this time her tears were pure joy. She threw her arms around my neck. "Thank you," she whispered. Yeah, I know. It was a little bit of a dig. A final satisfying twist of the knife. But seeing her laugh through her tears as she hugged me, that was the real gift.
Story Teen.
The timer on my screen hit 0, and the little loading circle spun for what felt like an eternity. My heart was pounding against my ribs. Garth Brooks. Vegas. The +1 residency. Tickets were basically unobtainable, a Ticketmaster bloodbath of epic proportions. Then the screen flashed. Asterisk. Congratulations. You have secured 6 tickets. Asterisk. I actually screamed. My husband Mark came running into the office. Did you get them? I got them. I spun around in my chair holding up my phone like it was the Holy Grail. 6 for all of us. The plan had been brewing for months in our group chat aptly named Vegas Girls Trip. Me and Mark, my best friend Maya and her husband Leo, and my other closest friend Chloe and her boyfriend Ethan. 3 couples, 1 epic weekend. I immediately snapped a screenshot and fired it off to the group chat. Asterisk, asterisk me, asterisk, asterisk we are going to Vegas bitches. The replies came in a flood. Asterisk, asterisk, Maya, asterisk, asterisk, no. Fucking way. Catherine, you are a legend. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk, OMFG. I'm literally shaking. I love you. My fingers flew across the screen. These tickets weren't cheap. We were talking primo seats, not the nosebleeds where Garth looks like a tiny ant-sized cowboy. I'd put the whole charge on my travel rewards credit card to get the points, but there was no way I could float $2.5 grand. Asterisk, asterisk, me, asterisk, asterisk. Okay, so total for all 6 was $3,600. That's $1,200 per couple. My Amex bill is due on the 25th of next month. I absolutely cannot carry a balance on this card, so I need the money from you guys before then. Cool. Asterisk, asterisk, Maya, asterisk, asterisk, totally cool. You're a lifesaver for putting it on your card. Will Venmo you as soon as possible. Asterisk, asterisk. Chloe, asterisk, asterisk. Yes, of course. Thanks again, Kay. We owe you big time. The relief was instant. The trip was real. The money was sorted. For the next 2 weeks, the chat was a flurry of activity, links to hotels on the Strip, debates over which steakhouses were essential outfit planning. It was perfect. 2 weeks before my credit card bill was due, I sent the first gentle reminder. Asterisk. Asterisk. Me, asterisk. Asterisk. Hey guys, just a friendly reminder about the Garth ticket money. The Amex bill is coming up soon. My Venmo is at Catherine Miller. Asterisk, asterisk, Maya, asterisk, asterisk. Oh my god, yes, totally forgot. It's been a crazy week at work. I'll send it over tonight when I get home. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk. Shoot me too. Payday is Friday. I'll get it to you then for sure. No problem. I get it. Life happens. Friday came and went. I checked my Venmo. Nothing from Chloe. I checked again Saturday morning. Nothing from Maya either. A week later, with only 5 days until the payment deadline, the panic started to set in. This wasn't a $50 brunch bill I was chasing. This was a serious amount of money. I typed out another message, this time a little more direct. Asterisk, asterisk, me, asterisk, asterisk. Hey, my credit card payment is due on Tuesday. I really need the $1.200 from each of you for the tickets today if possible. This time only, Maya replied. Asterisk, asterisk, Maya, asterisk, asterisk, GK, I am so sorry. Leo and I had an unexpected vet bill for the dog, totally wiped us out. Can I get it to you next week? Next week was after my bill was due. My stomach twisted. I decided to message Chloe privately. Asterisk, asterisk, me, asterisk, asterisk, hey Chloe, just checking in on the Vegas money. The bill is due in a few days, and I'm getting a little stressed about it. The 3 little dots appeared, then disappeared. Appeared, then disappeared. Finally, a message came through. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk. Hey, so sorry, Ethan's car needed new tires. We're a little tight. Is it okay if we just pay you back in a couple weeks? I stared at the screen, my blood starting to boil. A couple of weeks. They wanted me to carry a $2.400 balance and eat the interest because of their dog and their tires. Did they think I was a bank? I'm diligent, almost neurotically. So about paying my credit card in full. Every single month. It's a point of pride. It's how I was raised. You don't spend money you don't have. My hands were shaking as I typed my reply to both of them. Asterisk. Asterisk. Me. Asterisk. Asterisk. I was really clear from the beginning that I couldn't float this. The bill is due Tuesday. I need the money by then. I was left on read. By both of them. Tuesday arrived. The payment due date. I woke up with a knot of dread in my stomach. I opened my Venmo app praying. 0. Not a single dollar had been sent. My Amex app glared at me times. Minimum payment due $75. Statement balance. $3,648.19. Asterisk. I felt sick. Humiliated. They had put me in this position knowing full well what the terms were. They had agreed. And now they were just ignoring me. Their silence was deafening. It wasn't an accident. It was a choice. Furious and close to tears, I picked up the phone and called the one person who would understand my financial anxiety, my older sister, Olivia. Hey, what's up? She answered, her kids screaming playfully in the background. I let it all out. The excitement of getting the tickets, the crystal clear payment plan, the lame excuses, the radio silence. And now they just expect me to take a hit on my credit score to pay interest on Times Their Times concert tickets because they can't manage their money. I'm so angry I could spit. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Are you kidding me? Olivia said, her voice sharp. That's insane. You know, our stepsister Ashley and I were in the queue for those tickets for 2 hours and got shut out. We were so bummed. a light bulb went off in my head. A brilliant, vengeful, problem-solving light bulb. Liv, I said, slowly a plan forming. Do you and Ashley still want to go? To Garth in Vegas? Are you joking? Of course we do. I have 4 tickets that just became available, I said, a grin spreading across my face. They're $600 each. I need the money today. Done, she said without a second of hesitation. I'm sending you my half right now and I'll get Ashley's. Consider them sold. Not even 5 minutes later, my phone pinged with 2 back-to-back notifications. Asterisk Venmo. Olivia paid you $1 200. Note, Vegas, baby asterisk. Asterisk Venmo, Ashley paid you $1 200. Note, Garth, here we come. Thank you, asterisk. The weight that lifted off my chest was monumental. I immediately opened my Amex app and paid the entire balance in full. Then I called Mark. Change of plans. The Vegas trip is now a family affair. A week before the concert, I posted a picture on Instagram. It was a boomerang of 4 glasses clinking together, mine, Mark's, Olivia's, and Ashley's. I captioned it times. Final Vegas planning session. Complete T-minus 7 days until Garth Brooks. Asterisk. I was scrolling through the comments smiling when a new message notification popped up at the top of my screen. It was from Maya. My thumb hovered over the bubble, then pressed down. Hey, the message read. Just saw your story, so fun. Are you guys going to the concert twice or something, lol? My fingers went cold. Asterisk. Twice or something, lol. Asterisk. The casualness of it, the breezy little lol at the end, felt like a slap in the face. It was as if the past 2 weeks of my frantic reminders and their blatant ghosting had never happened. I took a deep breath, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. Mark walked in, saw the look on my face, and just raised an eyebrow. I held up a finger telling him to wait. I typed out my reply. No emotion. Just facts. Asterisk. Asterisk. Me, asterisk, asterisk. No, not going twice. I sold the 4 unpaid tickets to Olivia and Ashley to cover the Amex bill. I hit send. The delivered receipt turned to read almost instantly. The 3 little dots for Maya started typing, disappearing, then typing again. Before she could finish her thought, a notification from the Vegas Girls Trip group chat exploded on my screen. It was Chloe. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk, Catherine. What the fuck is Maya talking about? You sold our tickets. And then Maya chimed in, abandoning our private chat for the group audience. Asterisk, asterisk, Maya, asterisk, asterisk. I'm so confused. You sold them without even telling us. We had the time booked off work. Leo and I both took vacation days. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk. Ethan too, we booked this off months ago when you first got the tickets. This was our big trip for the year. I stared at the messages, my blood turning to ice. Booked time off work, but couldn't manage to send a Venmo. The audacity was breathtaking. Asterisk, asterisk, me, asterisk, asterisk. I told you both repeatedly that I needed the money before my bill was due on the 25th. I sent reminders. I privately messaged you. You both ignored me. Asterisk, asterisk, Maya, asterisk, asterisk. We weren't ignoring you. I told you we had a vet bill. We were going to pay you next week. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk. Yeah, what the hell, Kay? You couldn't just wait a few more days. It's not that big of a deal. Not that big of a deal. $2,400 was times not that big of a deal, asterisk. The rage that had been simmering for weeks finally boiled over. Asterisk, asterisk. Me, asterisk, asterisk. Not a big deal for you to expect me to go into credit card debt, for you to pay interest on your concert tickets because you had a vet bill and bought new tires. Yes, it is a big deal to me. Asterisk, asterisk, Maya, asterisk, asterisk. Oh my God, you're being so dramatic. You could have just paid the minimum payment on the card and held them for us. That's what normal people do. That was it. That was the line. Projecting their own shoddy financial habits onto me is the normal way to behave. The sheer unadulterated entitlement of it sent me into a calm, focused fury. I stopped typing replies. Instead, I scrolled up. All the way up in our chat history, back to the day I bought the tickets. To the giddy excitement and the crystal clear terms. Asterisk, asterisk, me. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Okay, so total for all 6 was $3,600. That's $1,200 per couple. My Amex bill is due on the 25th of next month. I absolutely cannot carry a balance on this card, so I need the money from you guys before then. Cool asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk, Maya, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Totally cool, you're a lifesaver for putting it on your card. We'll Venmo you as soon as possible, asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Yes, of course, thanks again, Kay. We owe you big time, asterisk. I screenshotted the entire exchange. Then I went to my private chat with Chloe, where she'd given me the new tires excuse and then left me on red. Screenshot. Then I found Maya's vet bill excuse followed by her silence. Screenshot. I returned to the group chat and sent the 3 images one after another without a single word of commentary. The chat went silent for a full minute. I could practically feel them reading the words they'd so casually typed weeks ago, now staring back at them like an indictment. Then Chloe's message came through dripping with venom. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk. So that's it. You just screw us over. Some friend you are. Asterisk, asterisk, me, asterisk, asterisk. A friend isn't a line of credit. I held up my end. I got the impossible tickets. I was clear about the terms. You're not mad at me. You're mad you got caught being flaky and irresponsible, and now there are consequences. Asterisk, asterisk, Maya, asterisk, asterisk. This is unbelievable. Leo is looking at StubHub right now, and the cheapest tickets in the shittiest section are $2,000 each. We can't afford that. You've ruined this entire trip. I actually laughed. A short, sharp, bitter sound. Asterisk, asterisk, me, asterisk, asterisk, no. Times you, times ruined the trip when you decided your friend's financial well-being was less important than a Venmo transfer you couldn't be bothered to make. You expected me to risk my credit score for your fun. The only thing that's unbelievable here is your nerve. Mark was reading over my shoulder, his arm around my waist. He gave my shoulder a squeeze. Asterisk, asterisk, Chloe, asterisk, asterisk. Fuck you, Catherine. That was the last message I read. I clicked on the group chat name. Scrolled to the bottom. My finger hovered over the bright red button. Asterisk. Leave group. Asterisk. I tapped it. A small pop-up asked for confirmation. Asterisk. Are you sure you want to leave Vegas, girls? Trip. Asterisk. I tapped. Leave. The chat disappeared from my screen. It was gone. Just like that. Years of friendship erased with a click. I felt a pang of sadness, but it was buried under an avalanche of relief. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Olivia. Asterisk, asterisk, Olivia, asterisk, asterisk, everything okay. Saw your post, then Maya and Chloe both unfollowed you. I took a picture of my face smirking, holding up a glass of wine Mark had just poured me. Asterisk, asterisk, me, asterisk, asterisk, everything is perfect. Better, actually. Get ready for Vegas. The drama-free version. Story 11.
The crunch of tires on the gravel driveway was what woke me. 2:13 a.m. My heart hammered against my ribs, the same dull panic I'd felt every night for the last 2 weeks. I swung my legs off the couch, the cheap fleece blanket pooling at my feet. I'd been sleeping there waiting up, pretending I was just watching TV. A lie I told myself so I didn't have to admit my wife was out with someone else. The front door opened. Not with the usual jingle of keys and a tired sigh, but with a clumsy fumbling, a muttered curse, and the heavy thud of the door bumping against the frame. Sarah stood there silhouetted by the porch light. She swayed slightly, her purse dangling from her wrist like a dead weight. The air that rolled in with her was thick with the smell of cheap Chardonnay and a man's cologne I didn't recognize. "Sarah, where the hell have you been?" My voice was thinner than I wanted. She didn't look at me. She focused on kicking off her heels, each one landing with a soft thud on the hardwood floor. "Out. Out where I called you," I texted. I was worried sick. She finally looked up, her eyes glassy and unfocused. There was no apology in them. No concern. Just a kind of flat, defiant exhaustion. "I can't do this anymore, Luke. Do what? Work late? Go out with your friends? And not tell me? What are you talking about?" I kept my voice low. Chloe and Ben were asleep upstairs. "Us," she said, waving a limp hand around the living room at the photos on the mantelpiece at me. This marriage. It's dead." The words didn't compute. It was like she was speaking a foreign language. "Dead? What are you talking about? We had dinner with my parents last Sunday. We were fine." A dry, bitter laugh escaped her lips. "Were we? Or were we just playing our parts?" "I'm not happy, Luke. I haven't been happy for a long time." That was the first shot. The classic line I'd learn later was straight from the Cheater's Handbook. It's designed to make you question your own reality. And you're just telling me this now. At 2 a.m, drunk, I met someone. She blurted out the words, tumbling over each other. He makes me feel alive. He sees me. I'm leaving." I felt the floor drop out from under me. My vision tunneled. "You're leaving? Leaving what? You? The kids? This house? I want to be happy. What about times our times happiness?" I choked out, pointing a shaking finger from me to her. "What about Chloe? What about Ben? They're 5 and 8, Sarah. They need their mother." Her face hardened into a mask of cold resolve. "They'll be fine. They're resilient. It's better for them to have a happy mom living somewhere else than a miserable one living here." She was a stranger. My wife of 10 years, the woman I'd held while she gave birth to our children, was gone. In her place was this hollowed-out replica speaking in soulless self-help cliches. The affair fog. I didn't have a name for it then. All I saw was a monster. She pushed past me and went upstairs. I heard her rummaging in the closet. The sound of suitcase wheels on the floor. I followed my legs, feeling like lead. "Don't do this," I begged, standing in the doorway of our bedroom. She was throwing clothes into an open suitcase on the bed, a dress I bought her for our anniversary, a sweatshirt she stole from me in college, our history tossed aside like garbage. "Sarah, please. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. Whatever it takes." She stopped, a pair of jeans in her hand, and turned to me. "Why would I want to fix this so we can go back to being miserable? You suffocated me, Luke." I couldn't breathe. She was feeding on my panic, twisting my desperation into a justification for her betrayal. "I love you," she said, the words utterly meaningless. "But I'm not times and love times with you anymore." She zipped the bag, grabbed her purse, and walked toward the door. I stood in her way. "Please." I whispered, tears finally breaking free. Don't leave your kids. I'll call them tomorrow, she said, her voice devoid of any emotion. She looked right through me. Move. I didn't. I couldn't. She sighed a sound of pure annoyance and simply pushed me aside. Not a hard shove, just a firm, dismissive pressure on my shoulder that sent me stumbling back a step. It was so casual. So final. I watched from the window as her taillights disappeared down the street. D-Day. The day the world ended. The next month was a blur of humiliation. I was a textbook case. I called. I texted. I left long, rambling voicemails that started with anger and always ended with me pleading. Each call that went to voicemail, each text that was met with a curt one-word reply was a fresh stab in the gut. Asterisk. Please. Just talk to me. Asterisk. I'm busy. Asterisk. The kids are asking for you. Asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk. Tell them I'll call later. Asterisk, asterisk. Asterisk. I miss you. We can get through this. Asterisk. Redate. 1:04 p.m. She'd swing by the house at random times to get more of her things. She never called first. She'd just appear a ghost in her own home, walking through the rooms with a chilling detachment, while I followed her like a lost dog begging for scraps of affection. How can you do this? I asked one afternoon, watching her pack a box of books. 10 years. How can you just throw it all away? She didn't even look up. It wasn't all a waste, Luke. We got the kids out of it. The kids. She talked about them like they were a consolation prize from a failed business venture. She wasn't a mother anymore. She was a warden on a weekend pass. She saw them when it was convenient for her, parading them around her new exciting life for a few hours before dropping them back into the wreckage she'd created. My friends told me to stop. My mom told me to get a lawyer. But I couldn't. I was convinced that if I just said the right thing, found the right combination of words, the Sarah I knew would snap out of it. She was in there somewhere behind the fog. The final straw came on a rainy Tuesday, exactly 1 month after she left. I'd found out from a mutual friend where he lived. A generic apartment complex across town. Driving there was the single stupidest thing I've ever done. My hands were slick on the steering wheel. My stomach a knot of dread and pathetic, stubborn hope. Her car was there. A knot of relief and nausea tightened in my gut. She was real. This was real. I walked up to the third-floor apartment, the rain soaking through my jacket. I could hear faint music from inside. I knocked. My heart was a drum against my ribs. The door opened. It was her. She was wearing one of my old band t-shirts and a pair of yoga pants. Her hair was messy. She wasn't smiling, but she looked calm, peaceful. The sight of it broke me. Luke, what are you doing here? Her voice wasn't angry. It was just tired, annoyed. Like I was a delivery guy with the wrong address. I had to see you, I said, my own voice cracking. Sarah, please. I'm begging you. One last time. Come home. We can fix this. I'll do anything. From behind her, a man appeared in the doorway. He was tall, nondescript, and holding a coffee mug. One of ours. The one Chloe had painted for me for Father's Day, with a crooked smiley face and the word Daddy on it. He looked at me, then at Sarah, a smug little smirk on his face. Sarah didn't even flinch. She just looked back at me, her eyes as cold and gray as the storm clouds overhead. "You need to leave," she said, her voice flat. "You're embarrassing yourself." She started to close the door. "Sarah, wait," I cried, putting a hand out. She stopped, the door cracked open just enough for me to see her face. For a second, I thought I saw a flicker of something. Pity, remorse. "You know," she said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, "the hardest part of all this was the first night. But after that, after I left you and the kids and the house, I haven't thought about you once. It's been so quiet." Then she shut the door. The definitive click of the deadbolt sliding into place echoed in the empty hallway. It was the loudest sound I had ever heard. I stood there in the silent beige hallway for a full minute. The rain-soaked jacket felt heavy cold. But I wasn't cold. I wasn't anything. The sound of that deadbolt was the sound of a switch being flipped. The part of my brain that had been screaming, pleading, and hoping for a month just went silent. It's been so quiet. I walked back to my car, got in, and sat there as the rain drummed on the roof. I didn't cry. I didn't punch the steering wheel. I took out my phone, found her contact, and pressed delete. Then I blocked the number. The drive home was different. I saw the traffic lights. I noticed the stores. The fog in my head was gone, replaced by a crystalline, razor-sharp clarity. She hadn't been a victim of some magical affair fog. She was just selfish. The man with my daughter's coffee mug wasn't a soulmate. He was an accessory. And I wasn't a husband fighting for his marriage. I was a fool begging his abuser for another chance. I got home, walked straight into the kitchen, and called my mom. "I'm done," I said before she could even say hello. "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry." "Don't be," I said. "I'm not. I need the name of that lawyer you mentioned." The next morning, I was in a high-back leather chair across from a man named David Chin. He was all sharp angles and sharper questions. "What's your ideal outcome?" he asked. "The house. Full physical custody of my children. She abandoned them." I laid out the whole story, the drinking, the affair, her exact words. I was calm. Factual. It was like describing a car wreck I had witnessed, not one I had been in. He nodded slowly. "We file tomorrow." With prejudice. The moment the papers were served, her new quiet world erupted. My phone, which I'd unblocked for logistical purposes, started lighting up. Asterisk, asterisk. What the hell is this, Luke? Asterisk, asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk. You can't do this. Asterisk, asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk. You're trying to take my kids. After everything I did for you, asterisk, asterisk. I followed Chin's advice. Gray rock. I only responded to direct questions about the kids, and only with yes, no, or logistical facts. Asterisk. When are you dropping off Chloe's dance bag? Asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk. It's on the porch. Asterisk, asterisk. Her inability to get a reaction out of me drove her insane. The next day, I sat down with the kids to watch a movie. I clicked on Netflix. Your account has been deactivated. I just laughed. A real, actual laugh. It was so petty. So predictable. She couldn't control me anymore. so she was trying to control my streaming services. I signed up for a new account under my own email. It took 3 minutes. The first time we had to meet in person was at the bank. Her name had to be taken off the mortgage. I got there first, sat at the long mahogany table in the conference room. I wore a suit. I felt powerful in it. She walked in 5 minutes late wearing jeans and a stained sweatshirt. The affair energy, that manic glow she'd had, was gone. She looked tired. Her eyes darted around looking for an angle. A weakness. She found none. "Luke," she said, her voice trying for a softness that wasn't there. "Sarah," I replied, not looking up from the documents in front of me. The loan officer went through the paperwork. It was a tangible consequence. This house times our times house was no longer hers. Her signature was a final act of surrender. I felt her watching me, waiting for me to say something to give her an emotional foothold. I signed my name, pushed the papers back to the officer, and stood up. "I'll see you Friday to pick up, Ben," I said, and walked out without a backward glance. She sat there, a statue of stony silence, trapped in the reality she had created. The divorce proceeding was an epilogue. I was composed. She was a wreck. She sat slumped in her chair, her lawyer doing all the talking. The judge granted the divorce, approved the custody agreement I'd fought for. And it was over. He banged the gavel, and a 10-year chain broke and fell away from my neck. I walked out of that courtroom and didn't look back. I was legally finally free. But the war wasn't over. She had just lost the main battle. Now she would resort to terrorism. It started with the kids. Ben would come home on a Sunday night smelling like cigarette smoke, telling me Mommy's friend Rick was there. Chloe started acting distant. One evening, while I was making dinner, she asked Daddy, "Are you selling our house? Mommy said you're broke and we'll have to move." My blood ran cold. Why would she say that, sweetie? She said to ask you. She said you're probably hiding money. She was using our 5-year-old daughter as a spy, pumping her for information and poisoning her with lies. I knelt down. "That's not true, Chloe. This is our home. Always." The week before Ben's 9th birthday, it escalated. She was supposed to drop him off at 6 on Sunday. At 6:30, I called. Voicemail. 700. Voicemail. Panic began to claw at my throat. At 8:15, I got a text. A picture of Ben looking miserable in front of a tacky miniature golf course 3 hours away. Asterisk, asterisk. Decided to give him an early birthday trip. Don't worry, we're having fun. Asterisk, asterisk. She had kidnapped my son. It wasn't a legal kidnapping, not yet. But it was a violation of the custody order and a direct attack. I called Chen, my voice shaking with rage. We documented everything. She brought him back the next day, 24 hours late, acting as if she'd done us all a favor. Ben was quiet and withdrawn for days. The final front in her campaign of sabotage came through my best friend Mark. He called me on a Thursday night. "Hey man, weird question," he said. "Did you lose your job?" "What? No. Why?" I got a message from Sarah on Facebook." My stomach tightened. What did she want? She said she was worried about you. Said you were struggling financially, that you were about to lose the house. and she wanted to know if I could check in on you. Basically, she was trying to spread a rumor that you're falling apart. He was a good friend. He saw it for what it was. A desperate attempt to isolate me, to shatter the stable life I was painstakingly rebuilding. Thanks for telling me, Mark. Of course, man. She's unhinged. You need anything? No, I said, looking around the quiet living room at the backpacks by the door and the Lego castle on the floor. I have everything I need right here. She hadn't broken me. She hadn't won. The marriage was over, the house was mine, the kids were safe with me. All she had left was a scorched earth policy lobbing pathetic grenades from a distance. But I wasn't the pleading man on her doorstep anymore. I was a fortress. And my kids were inside, protected. Let her burn herself out in the wasteland she'd made. We were already home.